I am as God made me. I can't help it. Sorry.
That's all we can be.
Yeah. James Lawrence, good to see you.
I'm going to change the title.
Okay, you changed the title.
It's kind of misleading.
Well, especially now since there's no impact.
Twitch is free.
James Lawrence. We're gonna get into that in a minute. The answer is no, but just so we throw it out there. Dave Scooby, welcome, sir. Sorry, we're it's just Will and I today, for now at least. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Rob's been telling us since 5:30 this morning, and we haven't responded to him that he's got open houses today and he can't be here. And he's asking us right now.
Oh,
Did you get my messages?
Like 5:37 this morning? No, we didn't.
I'm gonna text him right now and be like, "Where the f are you, Rob?
Yeah, God, we're
You're letting us down."
There's people like really mad that we're not live right now. He didn't even acknowledge your cow farts.
I know. And waiting.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the part of the show where we don't know what we're doing yet.
Can you see that?
Stop.
So that's what we do to Rob. Oh, God. We torture him.
We don't use Discord, brah. No, that's what Rob says.
Brah. No, and Will's not fucking with you. Like, look. Brah, check the Discord.
Brah. Love the good doc. Good doc. It's his birthday, Gary, and it's your birthday. We got to go.
It is my birthday.
You're so blurry. What happened? Did I already start drinking? No,
I don't know why I'm blurry. Oh, there I am.
Yeah.
There I am.
Fascinating. Oh, man. What to talk about?
What's up, you beautiful people? This is Gary Horn, and this is the NWA podcast celebrating the past, present, future, history, legacy, and tradition of the greatest pro wrestling entity of all time. I've got Twitch pulled up, and it is like talking in my ear.
Is it back on?
No, just whatever came up when I went back to Twitch, like something was already just playing. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. All of you that are here right now, you guys are all gorgeous. Thank you for the happy birthday wishes. It's very sweet of you. It is Rob and I's birthday. As you know, Rob's not able to be here right now. He's got to work. He's doing open houses. We're screwing with him on text. And he's yelling at me now that I told him I was sharing this conversation. He said I should have censored the F words. So I apologize for that. I didn't.
He's in school mode.
Oh, he's in the chat right now, Rob Stinson.
Oh, hello.
You guys are terrible. Oh, guys, we have so much to talk about tonight. We have like a list of news items we can go over. We've got the NWA's big news. We've had a day to rest and reflect on. We can talk about that. I can tell you everything I did for my birthday, which was I worked today. That's what I did for my birthday. I did have a friend. I have a friend named Tiffany, and she is in Brooklyn, New York. I just want to say this. I did just get this, and she had mailed this to me. And this is a sign of friendship, like better than these guys as friends. She sent me this. Nice. And I thought that was very sweet, and it arrived on my birthday. How nice of her.
Very nice.
Anyway, Tiffany Johnson. Robert Stinson, did you hear Raven's comments?
Yes.
Yeah, we heard them. How?
Several weeks ago.
But anyway,
that reminds me of the joke that the other guy who's on here with us sometimes makes. That's funny.
Yeah, it's weird. Rob just be ripping people off left and right.
He's probably so mad that he's not with us right now.
Oh, Rob, hope those open houses are going great. We're sorry you're not here. Will, should we just run down the list of news items? Is there something you wanted to get off your chest first before we get started with this? We're letting people join us here in the chat. We had a good one last night, folks. If you were not here, we had an emergency meeting of the hashtag NWA fan. And it is no lie. It was not some, I don't even know how to describe this, but somehow the news came out and we went live to talk about it with J Cal from the Alliance blog. And not only were we joined by J Cal from the Alliance blog, the real world's heavyweight champion, Nick Aldis, joined us live. And so did Dave Marquez. And we could not have asked for a better show. And you guys have pushed it and supported it so much. Subscribers shot up. It's been great. So shout out Dave Marquez, Nick Aldis, and especially the lovely J Cal for being there with us as we talked about the brand new news that the NWA has partnered with United Wrestling Network and Thunder Productions, I believe was the name of it. I'm going to pull up the press release so I can answer any and all questions that are probably going to come in today multiple times. And so we'll have that ready to go. But very cool news. We were excited just to talk about it. And we were excited we were able to capitalize on it by all of us being able to go live. And it paid off, man. This was a big deal. But anyway, Will, I said before we went into the news stuff, I would ask you if you had anything you would like to talk about first.
Just echo what you're saying, man. Like it was, I mean, you can't ask for a better response from that announcement than literally, an hour after the announcement comes out, we're sitting here with J Cal, the premier news source and historian of NWA, and then to get joined by arguably two of the biggest players in this whole deal, Dave Marquez and the champ Nick Aldis. I mean, aside from having Billy Corgan on with us, that was kind of top of the mountain, So it was just cool to get to pick their brain a little bit and hear, where they're at and to hear how the champ is feeling. I like hearing that he's ready and he's leaning out and he's been.
He
training.
seemed more excited than he seemed in a while, didn't he? He seemed like in a super good mood.
Yep. I mean, why wouldn't you be, man?
Yeah, I was excited to talk to him, and he just was. He's been on the show. God bless him. Him and Thunder Rosa have been on the show multiple times. Dave Marquez now as well. But there was something different in the air last night. Like when Nick Aldis was on there, he was like flexing and just pumped and he seemed energetic. He seemed ready to go. Now, he did say he had just taken his pre-workout, so that's probably part of it. But it just seemed like there was a big weight off of his shoulders. Like, it's coming back. We're coming back. I'm going to be defending the title. We're having matches. It's all falling back in place. This hiatus. He's already got one huge title match lined up. Thunder Rosa does too. And then now like an actual regular show that Marquez guaranteed us he'd be on the very first one. So it's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously it's a great place to start the show tonight talking about that. It's the biggest news in our world for sure. There's a couple of thoughts that I have coming out of yesterday. These aren't meant to be negative or anything like that. These are just thoughts that I've had that we can discuss. The first one, and I mentioned this to you earlier, Gary, for all the buzz around the Pritchard Aldis stuff, for all the buzz around the NWA hiatus, are they done? All the chitter chatter. I did not hear a lot yesterday from a lot of the quote unquote news outlets that cover professional wrestling. and they mainly cover the mainstream stuff. I get that, but you know, they were quick to go on their podcast and say that the NWA was done, but none of them seem to be acknowledging, oh, they're not done. So that was my first observation.
Well, let's tackle this as people,
Yeah.
as what's the word I'm looking for? As outside of this as we can. I just lost I keep losing the words when I'm on this show. But just as unbiased as we could approach this, like we've had our moment of excitement. We were all there. You guys in the chat, you were there. We saw the news. We were excited. The NWA's back, but now we've had a day to process. It's 24 hours. We're back again. And we've had a chance to think about the details of this situation. We've had a chance to ask ourselves the questions that a lot of us probably had the same questions. The first one for me would be the same one that I saw James Lawrence jump right into here. The first question he asked is right in the chat is, has anyone heard or seen anything on the price of the weekly pay-per-views? Now, a lot of people yesterday were of the mindset, like, just wait. Like, this is good news. They're back, yada, yada, yada. But this is a legitimate question. This is going to be, I dealt with a dude today on Twitter that was just like, F it. Doesn't matter how much it is. I'm not going to be able to afford to pay anything weekly. I'm just going to have to give up on the NWA. There's a certain level of negativity where at a certain point I'm like, yeah, hey man, there's other wrestling you can watch. You don't have to watch this one. Like it's fine. Like if you can't, you can't. Power hopefully will be back sooner than later, but till then, maybe this ain't for you. But anyway, pricing is going to be an issue. So I will say this ties into what you were just talking about, Will. I listened to Wrestling Observer Live, or I know it's Wrestling Observer Radio that has Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez. They had an episode that dropped late last night, and I listened to it this morning, and Brian Alvarez brought up the whole thing that was announced by David Marquez. And he kind of read through the press release, and he and Dave discussed it a little. Brian was a little more harsh about it. Brian was very much like, we've seen this before. This has happened. This is TNA. This is 2007. Like somebody already tried this. It didn't work. Good luck. Wish you the best, but there's too much out there right now. Why is somebody going to do this? Like, who cares? And, I hope, I wish it wasn't the case, but here we are. And Meltzer was a little more loose about it. He had like okay, well, now is a different time than it was in 2007. Back then it was just pay-per-view and not as many people had access. Now it's like Fight TV. You don't know the price levels. You don't know what's being offered yet. There's a lot of different variables that exist now that did not exist back then. So it's possible this can work. His thought, he said he had no insider knowledge on it. He said he had talked with people, but he had no insider knowledge on the pricing. He said that he was guessing $5 to $10 or something like that for a show. And that would be what it was, which he thought sounded reasonable. If it stayed within that range. And he was just saying that amount, and I'm sorry, Jay Cal's mentioning in the chat, it was 2002. I was thinking that in my head and then it felt wrong, so I gave it 2007. But you're right, it was 2002, and that's what he was talking about. He was like, his point essentially was like, at that point, everything about it was way more crude than it is right now. As far as the internet, even like the scale and the span it reached and all of that stuff, the access people had, all of those things were different in 2002 than they are right now in 2020, that it's possible. It's possible this could work, and he wished everyone the best of luck. He believed that like $5 to $10 would probably work, and you'd probably get plenty of people that'd be willing to do it. His thing was the same as Brian's, though, that assuming people want more, or assuming people want that they just have a good enough show that people want to watch this kind of wrestling, because there is an abundance of wrestling product right now.
Yeah, I think like when you mention those prices, we're talking weekly, right? $5 a week is $20 a month, which is a little higher than most streaming services, higher than the network, WWE Network. $10 a week would be $40 a month. The reality is, when you're going to charge that, and especially if it's not going to be a subscription, it's not going to be monthly, it's going to be weekly, you do have to bring a standard of show, right? It can't just be, and I don't think it will be, because I think Marquez is a smart enough guy, and I think that the NWA and Billy Corgan are smart enough, and if they're going to go into something like this, it's going to be quality. So there's two challenges here. So that's the first one, is that every week it's going to be pay-per-view quality, and it's going to justify, oh gosh, I got to spend $10 again next week, right? The other challenge in that is going to be, how are they going to do that caliber of show on a weekly basis after not doing anything for months, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be the interesting thing. And my hope would be that the draw is going to be what Marquez was talking about on our show last night, is that he's going to open it up to everyone, not just the NWA. Right now they're partnered with the NWA, but we'll have the NWA on there. We'll have UWN, but opening it up to MLW, anyone, and I'm hoping that there can be enough of a diversity of talent that it doesn't feel repetitive. And I think that's what Marquez wants to execute. And so that's what I'm hoping happens. And if that happens, and every week there's going to be different people and it's not going to be the same matches every week, right? And you brought up the point last night, people were saying, well, I'm not going to pay for anything when there's wrestling on for free. Well, that's fine, but you can turn on the wrestling that's on for free right now, and you're going to see the same people every week, just mixing and matching and storylines that don't make a whole lot of sense and stuff like that. Of course, I'm mainly talking about WWE.
Sure.
But my hope is that there would be enough diversity in the talent that I would want, next week, Brian Pillman Jr. is going to be on there next week. I got to get next week. Oh, Nick Aldis is in a championship the week after that. I got to get that one, right? So that there's like a draw every week. And it's not the free TV model of let's recycle some storylines, let's keep some things going and stuff like that. So those are the two big challenges. They're actually just one challenge. It's just putting on consistently good shows that make you say, I got to buy it again next week,
Yeah, and that's a totally valid argument, because I mean, I guarantee you that the first one is going to be banging. Like, they're going to come out the gate swinging. Like, it's going to be. I just guarantee you, there's surprises, there's excitement, all of that stuff. But you're right. This is a weekly show, just like any other. Not just like any other, but they've got to do the same thing that like Raw and AEW and everybody else has to do. They got to put out a weekly product and get you to buy in, literally to buy into what they're doing. There's never been any doubt, I think, with the NWA that part of it's going to be this expectation of like, some of it is going to rely on the fact that you're wanting to support something you believe in, a product that you believe in. There is a little of that in there. It's the reason that the Cardiland Patreon has gone on this whole time. It's just like people just want to support. I remember having Lagana on the show back when he was on here and talking about the same thing, that just like they were surprised at the people that just, that wanted to buy into the NWA, wanted to promote it. They put out, for instance, like season 1 of Power just went back on sale. Like they just got new, we just got an email about that. Like they've got new DVDs in. Those DVDs sold out. The season 1 of Power that you can watch on YouTube right now if you want to go watch it. But the season 1 DVD sold out because like people just wanted to go ahead and invest. They wanted have the physical copies. They wanted to support the brand that they loved. So it's essentially the same thing again. They're asking you to do that. Now, I have some expectation that probably some Patreon stuff's got to play into this. They did say that they're going to be shooting extra stuff with the NWA stuff, not necessarily for Power, that you're going to get as a Cardiland Patreon subscriber. Nick Aldis, when he was on the show last night, mentioned his show that he had been talking about. So I expect to see some of that start playing out. But you're right, man. I mean, the biggest thing, the biggest curiosity for everybody right now, understandably so, and sorry if you're tuning in hoping that we have the answers, we don't, is going to be, what's the price? Like, how much does it cost? That's a logical next question. And it's going to be like, is it worth it to keep you interested, considering there is 40 hours a week of wrestling already in existence?
And are they all going to be the same? Like, maybe it's $5 a week normally, but then one show a month, it's $10 a week, because there's like a world title match. And it's like three or four title matches or something on the card, we don't know until we get there. And I see RJ in the chat asking about how big the roster and stuff will be. Yeah, I think it is a wait and see thing, because I think, just judging from our conversation with David Marquez last night, this is wide open. He's welcoming to anyone. I mean, even if Vince McMahon somehow decided, I'm going to let some of my people go do that, like, Marquez is like, come on, And so I think that's kind of TBD. And that's what I'm talking about with, like, that to me is what's going to create the most interest and the most differentiation between them and what's currently on. Because you don't have that anywhere else. You've got a straight up roster, or you have it a little bit with AEW. They're bringing in, for the open challenges, some outside people. So that's cool. So it's kind of similar to that, but this is just a wide open thing. And so we know the NWA is involved, but it's opened up to whoever. And so there may be a lot of indie guys that haven't worked in a while. And there may be a lot of promotions that are willing, like the NWA, to let their roster, go appear on other things. And we might see them pop up from time to time. So the interesting part is going to be how that booking goes, what it looks like from week to week. And as I said before, what is the thing that's going to hook you and make you say, I got to buy next week? Because, not to sound like a downer, but inevitably there's got to be like a dud somewhere in there, right? That's going to leave you like, and it's going to be different for everybody. Maybe there's a show that, Gary, you popped for, but I'm like, that didn't really connect with me. And I'm sitting here saying, well, what's the card next week? Do I want to buy, And so I think that's going to be the challenge, is keeping that consistent audience. And I don't know, I know I had to step out a little bit when you guys were talking to Marquez, but I don't know the expectation or what their goals are, what they need to hit to, like, be profitable and have it something that keeps going. I know he mentioned signing for 52 weeks, and they want to do it, for 52 weeks. But there's probably certain benchmarks they got to hit to make that profitable and to be able to, like, financially do that. I don't know what those benchmarks are, obviously, but it'll just be interesting to see how it comes together, what those individual cards look like, and stuff like that. What's going to keep people coming back? Because you're right. First episode, it's going to be everyone's bought in, because we want to see it. And I'm sure they're going to come out guns blazing. And we're going to see Nick Aldis, and we're going to see all the champions from the various promotions that are involved and all that kind of stuff. But then, after that is going to be kind of the telltale sign of what it's going to look like long term.
Yeah, just throw into the chat here with the folks in here. Wrestling with the MMA is saying here, if they put a price point of $5 a week, I can justify that to the wife. If it's above that, I'll have a hard time doing that, moving within the next 6 months or so. So, I mean, obviously price is going to be an issue with people. I saw people saying like $1 was too much, so wrestling with the MMA, you're one of the supporters. It's like he's saying that's not going to stop me from supporting the NWA until I'm able to put money in as well. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously we know there are fans like that out there. James H. Jackson Jr. Is in the chat saying that PW Insider had something in their elite section. He's saying that said $12 to $15 per pay-per-view, and Fight will have monthly subscriptions as well. I do know that Fight does currently offer a monthly subscription thing, so I was curious about that, and I was gonna bring that up. I know they have a monthly thing. I'll try to pull it up here as we're talking. I feel like, I'm going to be honest with you, this is just me talking here, but anything above 12 feels a little steep for a weekly thing to me, honestly. But I mean, I know you got people to pay and that sort of thing, but if you're not putting on pay-per-view level shows each week, it depends on, I guess it depends on what you're trying to do. Because I mean, it's tough. It's tough because, you know, I see the question here, would people buy predominantly the NWA ones, et cetera? Like, I think they're mixing up rosters here and they're bringing people in. They're going to try to they're going to try to pull big talent. I'm sure of it. They're going to try to surprise you with the people that show up. So that's going to cost money. And so you're supporting this brand doing what you love. And I see Brian Rose is in the chat. Brian Cervantes saying $1 is too much. People need to get paid for their work. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Like $1, that's ridiculous. So that is somebody I was talking to today. That's just that's ridiculous. But just saying, like, there's people that are going to complain no matter what you do. And then there's, I don't know. I hate sitting here telling you that I think 12 to 15 is steep. I want our people to get paid too. It's just like, what's gonna bring the most money? Are you gonna have, you know, when you could get the WWE Network right now for $10 a month, or Honor Club for $10 a month, or, you know, whatever, with like a back catalog of stuff. You know, $10 a month seems to be the like standard right now.
Well, and there's two different ways from a business standpoint to look at it. It's like, okay, if you price it at $14 a month, you know, and you get a weekly buy of 10,000 people, you know, versus if you price it at $3.99 a week. I don't know if I said a month before, but I meant per week. You price it at $3.99, $4.99 per week, and you get 100,000, you know, like, because it's more affordable. I mean, it's not like they're filling up an arena and there's a cap, right? Like there's no sellout. Everyone in America could get this, you know what I mean? And, or wherever Fight TV is available or wherever it's going to be. But so, I mean, you have to look at it from that standpoint too, of like, if you make the pricing a little more reasonable, you're probably going to get a higher volume. And, you know, if you're looking at the bottom line of making money, that's got to be something to consider as well. And so that's going to be telling, I think, you know, based on what they're going to estimate their viewership to be on a weekly basis, who are willing to pay. I don't know what kind of resources they're using to do that research or to come up with those, you know, proposed figures or anything like that. But it'll be interesting to see. I don't know how close we're going to get to September 15th before they announce and before they start selling, you know, possibly that initial week one pay-per-view, start putting that on sale. So let's see.
Yeah, I am seeing the same thing. James H. Jackson Jr. is throwing in here. I'm on PW Insider right now. This was from, here's the part I have a hard time with, is crazy, is like, this article was posted yesterday at 7:06 p.m. At that exact time, Dave Marquez was, I mean, like Nick Aldis and Dave Marquez were on here with us. And we, you know, I don't think it's a bad thing to say, we talked to Dave a little bit after the show, and we never got any hint of pricing. So it would be kind of interesting to know where PW Insider is getting this information for sure. Not to discredit them, I don't know, but it just says, according to this, the pay-per-view series is slated to air Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific, debuting on September 15th. We are told the expected weekly price for the pay-per-view will be around $13 to $15 per week, we are told Fight TV will offer a monthly subscription that covers all of the live events and VOD replays. It just talks about, basically, it goes on to talk about how it was the first attempt at a weekly pay-per-view series since the early days of Impact, with $9.99 pay-per-views. It says the primary booking team for the endeavor will be NWA champion Nick Aldis, David Marquez, and Aaron Stevens. It will effectively bring back fresh NWA content after the promotion paused production on NWA Power. Obviously, NWA president Billy Corgan will have a say in the NWA-centric content and matches. One would think NWA championship matches will be a major part of the presentation for the pay-per-view series. So I don't know. They're adding some stuff that we didn't get out of these guys when they were on the show. But yeah, I wonder where it's coming from. I don't know. I mean, that could be accurate for all we know.
I mean, it sounds like it might be coming from Fight TV. Because they're mentioning the Fight TV offering the monthly subscription. But yeah, I mean, just based on our conversation, I feel like, Nick and Dave would have told us, we can't tell you, because we asked, any idea about pricing. And I know Nick was like, I haven't been told anything yet. So I feel like if they knew, but they weren't going to tell us, they probably would have just said, just wait and see. So I mean, I would imagine they're still tossing around a number. And
I feel like they are. Now, if the deal is that they feel like part of the process is they could drive people to Fight Plus, which is their annual or their subscription fee. I've got that pulled up here. Fight Plus comes with unlimited on-demand access to pay-per-views by 25 plus organizations. It says 30 days after the live airing. So that's the weird part. It's an ad-free experience. Includes $2 credits each month to watch live pay-per-views in the Fight app. And it says all you can watch at the annual price of a single pay-per-view. So it seems like it's delayed stuff for the on-demand. So maybe something like that is coming back around. But for what that's worth, right now the Fight Plus subscription fee is $5 a month, or you pay annually $50 a year.
Yeah.
So if you could do that and get this show, that feels like a no-brainer. Like, that seems easy enough.
Yeah. But if you're getting it 30 days after the fact, I don't know.
Right. That's going to be the deal breaker, I think, for a lot of people. So there's a lot to discuss. I mean, that's the thing, though. You have to think that these guys aren't oblivious to this exact discussion.
Yeah.
They have to be talking about this exact same thing. What are people going to be willing to pay per week?
And you got to look at, read the room a little bit. I mean, we are in the middle of a pandemic. There are a lot of people that are not getting raises this year, or they're not working at all right now still. There's a lot of things going on. I don't think you can expect the same level of literal buy-in from everyone that you could have before this pandemic. But, it just... I see both sides of it, but my question is, and this isn't, not for us to sit here and talk about our personal finances, but what would be, if we were talking about a monthly cost for you, Gary, what would be comfortable to pay for 4 weeks of this programming?
So here's the deal. If it was me right now, and I don't know how to throw this out there. I'm sure there's people that make more than me out there right now. There's people that make less than me. I'm in a lucky position that my job has not been affected so much by this whole thing. I've actually gotten busier because of this whole thing. So I can't complain. I'm doing better than I deserve. All of that aside, right now I am in the top tier of Patreon for NWA. So that's already been enough to explain to the wife, who loves the NWA too, loves everybody involved, but is like, for a little while there, it was touch and go. Like, what are you even getting out of this? Like, what are you doing? And when I even told her about somebody getting kind of salty in the chat with like William Patrick Corgan and Nick Aldis the other day, she's like, well, come on. I mean, like, what's happening? It's well, just to be frank, it's $50 a month. Like, you're spending there. She's like, what the hell are you getting for it? That can't, like, you gotta, I mean, it's cool. You got to talk to Billy Corgan, but how many times, when's that worth it? And I get carried away. So I get caught up in something I love and I'm passionate about like this. So I can't see the forest for the trees or whatever the phrase is. But anyway, all that out of the way, if I'm going to be doing that, and now I'm expected to pay additionally for the show, that's going to be a tough one. I mean, I would think, I'm just going to be blunt. I don't think when you get over $10 a week, like, I think you're really pushing it. Like, it's, I don't know, man. It's tough. Like, if you're talking $10 a month gets you the WWE network, and you heard me. I get it. I know this ain't WWE. Billy Corgan's not a billionaire. He's not AEW. We get all of that stuff, but it's like, that's $120 a year right there. But you get access to so much stuff. Like, so even if you think the current product is just complete garbage, you can still go back and watch whatever wrestling you liked pretty much with that thing. And so you're asking people to turn that away, or in addition to that, pay for your product. I mean, a weekly pay-per-view, man, I don't know. I honest to God, I feel like $5 to $7. That's what I feel like is reasonable to ask. Or you do this fight subscription and maybe an annual price of like 50 to 60, something like that, gets you the show every week. Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of right in line with you, and I know I'm kind of putting us on the spot asking us this question, but it's just a real conversation that I bet a lot of people are tossing around their head.
Hey, dude, I'm trying to be as honest as I can with it.
Where's that line? I mean, honestly, for me, and I'm fortunate, like you are, that my job didn't take any kind of downturn. With a family of 4, you got to be smart, and you got to be responsible with every dollar, right? And this is something that I love. This is something that I'm willing to invest in, especially because we have a show about it, right? It provides content. It's a hobby and a passion of mine as well. But all that considered, I mean, for me, like $25 to $30 a month is going to be that cap, really. Anything over that, it's probably going to be a conversation of which 2 do I want to buy that month.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. That's just the reality, because it's just not we're talking about 52 weeks of this. That's when you got to be strategic. And I'm like, well, if there's a NWA title match, I can pay for that, and if there is one, and I don't think it's gonna be a competitive match or something like that, then I might have to pass on it. And that sucks to say, right? Like, I want to, and you're watching, this is the NWA podcast, and you guys are hashtag NWA fam. So ideally you want everybody to say, oh, I'll pay $1 million. I don't care. But the reality of it is what we're talking about, of like, where's that sweet spot where it's going to feel, and everybody's is different. There's people in the chat weighing in on it, and, bringing up the fact that, all these other networks, New Japan, WWE, Honor Club, all that stuff, it's like $10 a month, right? And that's for, as you're saying, like archives and libraries of content. And so talking about, paying that and more for, 90 minutes a week. I'm so bad at math. What's that, 6 hours a month? Right? If there's 4 weeks, it's 6 hours a month. So you're paying more than that for 6 hours a month. And, you know, I'm sure it's going to be quality and I'm excited about it. And not at all meaning for this conversation to sound like a downer. It's just, you know, this is what's going through everyone's head right now. So we're here to talk about it. But yeah,
hey, man, these people are here because we're being honest. They're being honest in the chat right now. I mean, I'm throwing it out to the folks in the chat. We want to know what you do. You know, Dave Scooby's talking about Fight TV. Has that $50 a year subscription. Yeah. James Lawrence says totally worth it. Ryan Romano, $50 a year sounds reasonable. Let's see. Cause yeah, you know, Dr. Red Tyler's mentioning WWE's 120 a year. James H. Jackson Jr. says I'll do 40, AKA $10 a week. Thunder Rosa's husband, who's aptly named Thunder's husband, says I can afford $7,000 a month, not a penny more. Not everybody's making that women's championship money.
We don't have that Burke money.
Let's see. Dr. Red said to be competitive, NWA pay-per-view would have to be $250 per week. I don't think they're charging that low, by the way. But yeah, Jake Allen and Brian in the chat are talking about maybe you don't order every single episode. You pick and choose, just a la carte. So yeah. maybe that's the case. Like you mentioned that, Will, like maybe you don't get everyone, you pick the ones you want. But Brian Cervantes says WWE would have to pay me $9.99 a month to watch them. So.
Well, listen, I have well, I'll be honest, I don't pay for the WWE network, but I have access to it. And I can't tell you the last time I watched WWE programming on there. I only watch WCW and stuff like that. So if it was only WWE content, yeah, you'd have to pay me $9.99 a month too.
Yeah, dude, I would totally not. I would not even play with the WWE network if it was just, even if it was the live versions of their current shows. Like, I do not care. Like, that's the hard part right now. I have the WWE network off and on, and it's just because we're doing like, hey, we got to talk about the Great American Bash 90. You know, so it's like, all right, well, I'll get the WWE network, and I'm paying $10 for that show.
Yeah,
you know, like yeah. It's like, and so I don't know. It's tough, man. This is the kind of discussion we have to have. I mean, this is the stuff they've got to be thinking about. So I mean, you know, why avoid it? I mean, and we're trying to do this as unbiased as possible. Like, have the actual conversation. Like, what are you willing to pay? It's tough. And a weekly amount is asking a lot from the working man. So what can you do? Lions blog saying $10 a week will work for me, but I doubt I'd order every week. He's also saying you're bumming him out, Will.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for being honest.
Yeah. But no, I mean, everybody, a lot of people are throwing in there, wrestling with the MMA. I could convince the wife to let me spend 20, but anything higher, and I'll have to wait until after the move. Like, so he's got stuff going on in his life he's got to worry about. It's tough. It's you know, like that. These are everybody's got stuff going on. We're in the middle of a pandemic still. Everybody's jobs are in flux. It's a weird time to bring this out. We're all excited that the opportunity is there. We're excited to see all of these stars get a chance to shine, to get back into business. Let's see. Thunder's husband says NWA has about 5 people that if they are on, I'm paying. If they spread them out, like Aldous on once a month and Thunder on once a month. Of course, Dr. Stinson's in the chat saying he'll pay whatever, of course, because money bags over there will just
you can't hide money.
There you go. But hey, we're not talking about that PhD money, bro. We're talking about working man money. And,
I was gonna say you were
collar.
I was gonna say earlier you were talking about, you know, NWA selling out of those power DVDs. I imagine the first time that we go to up to the Stinson estate, as I imagine. We're gonna walk in and there's just gonna be stacks of Power DVDs, and we're gonna go, oh,
that's where
that's
they all
who
went. Rob's got like 130 copies of season 1 of NWA Power.
Everyone that comes over, it's like a goodie bag with like 5 DVDs, all of Power season 1. Oh, cool, thanks. Like every time you come in and out, you get another one.
Oh my God. I believe that too. We can move on from the chat. We can always come back to it here, but this is a legit conversation. So, I don't know. I might like Rob being in the chat more than I like him actually. He's sort of funny this way.
Well, I can't see him like looking around and like, I know he's always listening, but sometimes he's just kind of like looking around, and I don't think he's paying attention. At least in the chat, he's paying attention.
That's true. That's a good point. I don't know how many times I have to call him out about bringing up an exact topic that I literally had just talked about.
By the way, happy birthday, Rob. You're my brother. You're my brother. You're my pal. I always got your back. Happy birthday.
Well, even though he won't say it to me, thank you, everybody in the chat, including you, Polka Dot Pam, and Wrestling with the MMA, and Turbo. And sorry if I'm missing anybody. You guys have been dropping the happy birthdays in there. Thank you so much. Am grateful to you for those happy birthdays. That's very kind of you. It's been a good one. It's been a pretty standard day. I was on a boat last weekend, so the birthday this week just kind of started back at work. And honestly, I don't know if you guys are this way, but the older I get, the less I want to think about it. So I just kind of, I don't know. People have been arguing with me today that you're supposed to still have a day where you celebrate you and all of your achievements. This is me celebrating something special that happens that I feel like I can honestly say humbly that I have some part in. It's this live chat right now that all of us are here hanging out, just talking wrestling. This is the stuff I love.
Here's the deal. You got to celebrate yourself every day, Gary. Every day.
I feel like that's a different kind of conversation, Will.
Okay.
What are we talking about?
Okay. Well, I just say on my birthday, my mentality is just give me all the wrestling swag that you bought me, because that's what I know I'm getting. Whatever you ordered from the nationalwrestlingalliance.com for me, like this shirt. This was my Father's Day. And then just, move on. Doesn't have to be like a big thing. But that's just what happens when you get older.
Fair enough. I'm not buying you anything for your birthday. I don't think you bought me anything.
I did not buy you anything for your birthday either.
I was about to say, so.
Yeah,
but thank you guys again for the birthday stuff. So we're going to move on to some other wrestling news, I suppose, so we don't just hang around and depress each other about how much money we're going to have to spend for things. We want to keep this thing, to quote Ryan in the chat, we want to keep it gravy cake 24/7. So that's what we're trying to do here. Will, you gave us some good news items as always. Let's start with let's just start from the top. We got a former WWE star discusses a big issue with Raw Underground. I love this article, and you're going to know why. But last week on Raw, this is courtesy of WrestleTalk.com. We want to give shout out where we can. It says last week on Raw, Shane McMahon returned to WWE TV for the first time this year, introduced Raw Underground, which is basically WWE's version of Fight Club. If you tuned into Raw or read the results of Raw this week, it continued on. Same deal. There's no denying that Raw Underground made guys like Baba Tunde, Eric, Dolph Ziggler, and the Hurt Business look rather impressive. In spite of this, and with a particular focus on Ziggler, former WWE star Lance Storm has spoken about one of the potential issues WWE could face with Raw Underground. While speaking with the Wrestling Observer Q&A, the former Intercontinental Champion spoke about an issue WWE could face with blending Raw Underground and more Raw matches. So this is what Lance Storm said. Nobody has brought up the point that I think is the issue. They created a really cool look by having these, let's say, way more violent, way more quick, sudden, big throws, takedown, ground and pound, and KOing guys. It looked exciting. To me, the issue is you debuted it with what I would consider a UFC knockout highlight reel where there were 4 matches in under 2 minutes. That's less than 30 seconds of a fight. If this gets over, they are in real trouble because the suddenness and the violence of a 30-second first-round KO is great, but you have a 3-hour show to fill. If Dolph Ziggler does a great amateur takedown and go behind, chokes this guy out, you say, Ziggler looked awesome. Yeah, he did. But if he has to do a pro wrestling match on Raw next week and he goes 12 minutes, I think there's a real fear of, well, what happened to Badass Dolph that can beat a guy in 30 seconds? So, Will,
First of all, where the one wrong thing that he said was the first sentence. Nobody has brought up the point that I think is the issue, because we literally had that same conversation a week ago today of the disconnect between what's happening on this show and what you're seeing on Raw and SmackDown, that being the whole issue. And so, first of all, but then everything else he said, I totally agree with, because it's totally on par with what we were saying last week. And
well, no, that's it. We love you, Lance, but don't say nobody talked about that, because that was exactly the issue we had with it on this show. This very show was exactly the issue. It's like talking about like, oh, hey, Dolph Ziggler's a badass. Like, he is out wrestling these people. We get it. Dolph Ziggler's a shooter. Dolph Ziggler is a legit collegiate superstar. Like, he can wrestle. We know that. And you're showing him doing it. So why can't Dolph Ziggler win any matches on Monday Night Raw? Like, why is Dolph Ziggler struggling? Because Dolph Ziggler should be killing guys, right?
Exactly. And this goes back again to the conversation we had Sunday about this instant gratification. When WWE talks about instant gratification, what they're actually talking about is lack of short-term memory. And that's not what instant gratification is, but that's how they treat us. Is they say, oh, you don't remember that last week Dolph went 12 minutes with a mid-carder and barely squeaked by. You'll just watch this and you'll be fine with him like knocking a dude out and taking him down in 30 seconds. Like, but we're not, because we're not idiots, you know? And that is the problem. And
I mean, we could draw it right back into some NWA talk. I mean, we're talking about Thunder Rosa. Mel Cervantes is in there with other women. Every time she steps in the ring, she's taking on somebody. What we do know for a fact, we don't know about the opponent necessarily. It depends on who she's facing. What we certainly know about Mel, aka Thunder Rosa, is that she has a legit MMA background. Miss Cervantes is a BJJ fighter. Like, she knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing. Brian, I'm sure, can attest to that. If you are another woman or you're her husband, you probably go get your tail beat. And so when Thunder Rosa walks into a match, there's Thunder Rosa and there's Mel Cervantes. Like, it's like it. Now they can cross over and it's great. You know, you want that like cohesiveness to it, but like, we're not talking like if she wants to take somebody down and ground and pound and make them submit, like throwing an arm bar, and that's the end of the match, and she could do it in 30 seconds. Well, who the hell wouldn't do that? Like, that's what you would do. That's how it works. You want to beat somebody. It does not, you're not paid by the hour, as like Gorilla Monsoon and folks would say, you know, like it's you're going in there to win a match. And so it's just, where's that line? Where's the line where Eric from the Viking Raiders is in there and he just like hip tosses somebody and beats their face in, and then that's the end of the match? It's like, well, why wouldn't he just be doing that all the time?
It's no continuity, no consistency. I mean, you know, it's what we've come to expect from this company. And it's a shame because, again, like Lance Storm said, I agree. It looks cool. It's interesting to see WWE doing something outside the box of what they normally do. But it's creating more problems than it is creating buzz and anything positive for anyone who watches WWE. It's just creating more questions, more confusion, and more of what pushed me out the door, you know, a year or two ago, which was just insulting my intelligence as a wrestling fan, using that exact same example of, so now I'm going to watch Dolph Ziggler on Monday Night Raw and I'm going to watch him struggle against somebody and be like, wait a second, I just saw him last week, be a badass. So it's a cool concept. It does look cool, but it's not being executed in a way that enhances the brand or the product. It's actually devaluing it, in my opinion.
So one thing I will say, the attempt of objectivity here is that I follow PW Torch, The Observer, those folks. They had analyzed the ratings, and they similarly have an opinion like ours, but they did note that on last week's Raw, the Underground segment did have a little bit of a boost. Overall for the show. Yeah. Now that could be just because people were like, what is this? They just want to check it out. That's what's going to remain to be seen, like this week, let's see, does that hang on, or were people just like, this is not anything special or anything better than what I expected? Because they're trying the experiment now, I guess, to see like what we talked about last week. Will is like Rollins pointing out that he thought audiences had the shorter attention span. I see people in the chat already getting rowdy about that. They don't agree with that, and I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's true. I think that part of the beautiful thing about wrestling has and always will be that it never ends. It's an ongoing story, and to pretend like you can't recognize the past while you're moving into the future is insulting to our intelligence as the audience. It's like saying, I look at a show like Game of Thrones, for instance. Like, you watch that show and there's like all these seasons and it matters, each thing that happens. And it's like, man, if wrestling could give this kind of attention to detail to like each of their characters, like everybody involved, like to get like each person has their own life, their own storyline going into things, that's so much better. But it's like they get to a certain point and they're like, oh, well, what's Randy Orton doing this week? Well, let's have him be in the ring with this guy. Let's see what happens. Like, well, he was in the ring with that guy like 3 years ago. Nobody remembers that. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like that sort of stuff. That's disappointing because it could be so much more than that.
Well, and here's what they're doing too. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too, not gravy cake, but regular cake. And
obviously not gravy cake.
And they're seeing, there's a portion of our fans that want like more authenticity, right? Talking about us, because we talk about that all the time, and that's why we're NWA fans, because we care about authenticity, we care about realism, we care about believability. Instead of taking that and incorporating it into the 8 hours of programming they already do every week, they're just going to make something, and I guess technically they're incorporating it into Raw, but they're going to do something separate, and it's branded totally different, and it looks different and feels different. Why not just incorporate that into the shows you're already running? Why not just read the room and say, okay, people want more authenticity, they want more real fight feel. Let's just add more of that into Monday Night Raw. We don't have to go underground and kill the lights and take all the ropes down. Like, just evolve the show with what people want. You don't have to create your own competition, because now it's like you're saying, yeah, of course, it doesn't shock me that the ratings during those segments were up. And it's not going to shock me if over time a portion of the audience completely turns off regular Raw and only tunes into Underground Raw like it's a different show. I mean, they're at war with themselves here.
I think that there's an argument to be made that people do want the authenticity and they want like a real fight feel, but I think that WWE is completely missing the point here. It wasn't Brawl for All that they wanted. It wasn't WWE Underground that they wanted. They wanted the real fight feel in the fact that they cared about two people stepping in the ring together. People are willing to suspend their disbelief that, come on, I mean, we could argue all day about what's too far in the wrestling business. Is it like so much flippy stuff? Or is it the fact that the Irish whip is essentially a really dumb move if you think about it? Let's be honest. Nobody freaking Irish whips anybody ever in real life fighting. That's not a thing you do. And we accept it. We accept that as logically it's consistent in this universe. This is a part of it. What we're caring about is the two people coming into the ring and their backstory, why they're fighting. They have an issue that they have to settle inside the squared circle. They have to do this. And they're also in a business where their job is to win fights. And so not only there's either a personal issue or it's just because they're trying to win the championship. It's like, that's the goal. You know, that's the same with any other sport in the entire world. That's exactly the things you care about. It's the reason why you care when the Patriots play the Dolphins or whatever. It's like you just care because they have a rivalry. They're both in the same division. That's all you need. It's like simple stuff like that. You just need that logical consistency to keep people's interest. That's all people want out of wrestling. They want people to just be, you're doing a simulated combat sport right now. And it's to be like, these guys want Nick Aldis's World's Heavyweight Championship. They have to prove that they're worthy of that.
Well, and this is again, and I think I might have misspoke earlier now that I think about it, and saying that they're looking at people like us who want authentic wrestling. I think they're looking at MMA fans. I think they're more concerned about UFC. But here's the deal. Fans of MMA, they have MMA. They're not trying to become wrestling fans. So they're going after an audience that ultimately they're not really going to capture because UFC exists, Bellator exists, all these MMA organizations, and they're, I mean, it's huge, and there's tons of access to it on cable television. So, I mean, if they're trying to capture that audience, that's going to be a losing effort. And I mean, yes, there's some crossover. Yeah, there's some wrestling fans who also like MMA and vice versa. But it seems to me like they're trying to capture that authentic fight feel versus what the NWA does, as we talk about all the time with the prize fight and what you were just mentioning with just make me believe that this fight matters and that these guys actually don't like each other and that there's something at stake, even if it's not a title, even if it's just a grudge match. And I'm bought in and I'll watch it. And as a wrestling fan, I'll enjoy it. I personally am not a fan of MMA. So that doesn't really scratch the same itch for me. So I don't know. It feels like they're going after the wrong audience, and that may be by design and that may be something they want to do. But I think ultimately what it does is it insults pro wrestling fans. And
yeah, because I mean, the thing is that like when you introduce this new style of fighting into the wrestling world, now you're not only saying like what they've been doing already is not real fighting or something. I don't know. What are you trying to prove there? Like you said, I mean, if you wanted MMA, you'd be watching MMA. So now you're doing fake MMA.
Yeah.
To say that like, oh, now we're in the underground. This is where the real people come to square up. And it's like, so what the hell are they doing every Monday and Friday? Like what's happening there? Like, what is that thing?
And that's why I say they're creating competition for themselves, because now they're making, if you love Raw Underground, you've got to think regular Raw is like baby stuff, you know, like if that's your cup of tea, you're going to watch regular Raw and you're going to watch SmackDown and you're going to be like, wusses, you know, I'm not interested in this. And you're going to tune out. And whereas if they had just incorporated more of that into the shows that already existed, maybe you become bought in even more. Maybe some people come back to WWE.
Oh, dude, how badass would it be if there's like legitimately moments where you could toy with some of these concepts, like Dolph Ziggler jumps in a match with God, I don't know, whoever, you know, like Rey Mysterio, and he locks in a arm bar at some point and Rey has to tap, you know, and it's 40 seconds into the match. That'd be messed up, dude. But that, I mean, I'd buy that a little bit more than, you know, like just to at least give that possibility. That's why probably you even throw in like a quick roll up every once in a while. It happens, dude. Like somebody just gets you. It's just, that's okay. Like you can play with that, play within the world you've created. That's the only thing. Just I don't know what the hell's going on. But Lance Storm, we talked about this.
Yeah. He needs to start watching our show. Sounds like he would agree with us.
Somebody shoot this over to Lance. All right, the next piece of news we got on there is NWA and UWN. I see you guys asking about it in the chat. If you're just joining us, we can go back to this. We did speak a lot on the NWA stuff and the UWN. We're obviously happy to talk about that all day long. But besides just them, Ring of Honor is going to start producing television yet again. They've been on hiatus since the COVID-19 pandemic, but according to Fightful.com, they have announced that they'll start producing its TV show this month in Baltimore. They'll be instituting necessary testing and safety measures and follow the guidelines of the Maryland State Athletic Commission. They'll be, according to the press release, ROH will adhere to a very stringent protocol as well as the regulations set in place. ROH will be instituting the necessary testing and safety measures, yada, yada, yada. Taking care of our people during this difficult time has been and still is our number one priority, says Chief Operating Officer Joe Koff. That's why we spent many weeks working alongside the Athletic Commission and gearing towards our return and producing wrestling action. So let's see, the last thing they did, Ring of Honor's last events were canceled 18th anniversary and past versus present shows in Las Vegas on March 13th and 14th. Those got canceled, and that was it. Since then, they've opted to cease taping operations until there was a safe way to resume. The new tapings will pick up right where ROH left off, with a focus on the ROH Pure Title Tournament, which had originally been scheduled for April. PW Insider is reporting that the tapings will be held on the weekend of August 22nd. I can add to this, Will, that again, reporting from the Pro Wrestling Observer Live, Brian Alvarez had a little bit on this afternoon, saying that he had been told, he couldn't reveal his source, but he had been told that they're going to be doing something unlike you've ever seen in professional wrestling as far as their taping goes. And he said that was a weird statement. He tried to get some clarification on it. This was coming from a person he could assure us was a person who watches a lot of pro wrestling. He was like, what does that mean exactly? And they said, if you are a hardcore fan of professional wrestling and how it should be presented, you're going to be very happy with this product. But again, Alvarez, ever the skeptic, was still like, all right, but he's like, that's the last thing they told me, but I'm still thinking like, all right, we've seen cinematic. We got that. Now we got like WWE Underground, and we've got, we've got New Japan doing like pretty straightforward wrestling, it seems like. And he's like, what is there that they can, that is unlike anything we've seen? That's the confusing part.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my first reaction would be studio wrestling, but obviously we've seen that, so that's not unlike anything. So that's what's confusing to me, is if you're a fan of old school or presenting wrestling the way it should be, you're going to like this, but it's not anything you've ever seen before. I don't know. It's confusing.
It is confusing. And a lot of times you look at this stuff, and like part of the issue I think that we have with companies like WWE right now doing the underground and the cinematic matches, like, and hey, I was on board the Undertaker AJ Styles match. I was like, that was kind of cool. I could take one of those every once in a while. Not every single show, a couple of times, every once in a while. Yeah. But of course, they're WWE and they do WWE things. But it's like, part of the frustration is you're kind of like, maybe you don't need a new cool way of doing professional wrestling. Maybe you just do professional wrestling. Can we just do what it is supposed to be?
Well, and I'm going to say this, spoken like a true blue NWA fan. Stop focusing on the way it's presented and just start focusing on the way that it's executed, the storylines, what happens in between the ropes, the stories that are told there. That's true professional wrestling. All that other stuff is just like the cherry on top. You know what I mean? But I feel like, it's the same thing going back to Raw Underground. It's like, oh, we want more realism and violence and whatever. Well, do it in the ring. You don't have to create a whole new set and make it smoky and all this stuff. Like, do it in the ring. That's what wrestling was supposed to be. Like, you don't see boxing saying, "Oh, we're gonna have matches in a bar," you know, and like it happens in the ring, and you're bought into the two guys, and I get it. That's apples to oranges because boxing is legit fighting, but it's that same mentality. But I feel like that's the modern way to go about it. It's like, we're going to present it differently, so it's going to be bells and whistles, all these distractions from what's going to go on in the ring. We're not going to put any effort into what goes on in the ring. We're going to keep that the same. We're going to package it differently, and that's just not the same thing.
Yeah, and it actually kind of leads into a little bit of a conversation that's going on in our chat right now. Folks, if you're listening at home right now in the podcast version of this, you miss out on being here, interacting with all the folks in the chat. We've got a great group of people that hang out and chat all across the board here with us while we're talking, and so we like to acknowledge those folks. And folks, if you're in the chat right now and you haven't hit subscribe, please do, or hit that like button. That would be a boost. It takes like 0.2 seconds. Just hit like, hit subscribe. We'd love you forever.
And listen, we are 9 subscribers away from 400. And
that's a great point.
That would be a great birthday present for Gary and Rob. And that happens because you guys share it out, and it happens because of you guys' support. So if you can share it out, like and subscribe, tell your friends, even friends, we're an NWA podcast, but we're sitting here talking about other wrestling organizations. So you got friends that aren't really NWA fans, tell them about the podcast. They'll come listen to this. Maybe they'll become NWA fans because they'll interact with you guys in the chat, and they'll hear us talk about it, and we can win them over. So spread the good news. This is the NWA podcast. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we love you guys. Thank you so much. Everybody listening at home right now in the podcast portion, and everybody here in the chat, we appreciate you. However you can come and consume this content, we are grateful for you. But to acknowledge the chat a little bit more, I did want to throw to it a little bit here. There's a lot of discussion in the chat sort of related to this sort of thing with like how wrestling's presented. But I think you can connect the two, because I see Coolman952 asking a lot, like, why do you think wrestling isn't popular this generation? Some people arguing that wrestling is still popular. We've kind of had this discussion, Will, on the show before, just that I think wrestling is popular. There's obviously audience to go around because there's multiple companies in existence right now. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap and that sort of thing, but
yeah.
But there was a time when we were in high school where it was like, I think it was like literally last show I was talking about how I was on vacation with the family, and the other family that we were on vacation with, it was very important that we got somewhere to see Hogan versus Sting at Starrcade. Like, that had to go down. People knew who Goldberg was in your school. People who were the jocks to the nerds, to the preppies, to the geeks, like whatever. People had like the Austin 316 shirt. People had DX. They knew what a crotch chop was. There was a different time period there in our youth. What is it that's keeping that from happening right now?
Well, since the good doctor's not here, I'm gonna echo a sentiment that he often talks about, and it's because I believe that wrestling is just like baseball and rock and roll, because you could say the same thing about both of those two things. There was a time, in the 90s when baseball was it, man. Like, baseball, everybody watched baseball, it was huge. We can't say that now. I mean, baseball is still popular, but, you meet a baseball fan and they're probably a hardcore baseball fan. But most people in general are going to like football better. At least in this part of the country where Gary, you and I are here in the Southeast. So that's different everywhere else, but it's the same thing with rock and roll. I mean, there was a time where rock and roll was the most popular kind of music out there, and everybody listened to it. Now there's all types of genres of music, and there's still fans of rock and roll, and it's still popular, but you can argue it's not as popular as it used to be. I think it's the same for wrestling. And I think for me, from my standpoint, it comes down to competition and just evolution of culture and technology. Because, and I don't mean competition within wrestling, like there's more promotions. I mean competition of other things like this thing. And I mean, all of the screens I have in my house. I mean, yes, wrestling is more accessible now than it was in the 90s. Cause dude, we had to, like you said, we had to rush to be home, you know, by a certain time so we could watch it live. That was it. We didn't have DVR or anything like that or on demand. But it's not like that anymore. And yes, we have a lot of access to wrestling, but we also have a lot of access to like a million other things. And we do very much live in this a la carte culture of, dude, I got unlimited stuff on Netflix to watch, right? Like there is no point in my day where if I want to consume some kind of entertainment and I flip through the channels and there's nothing on, that I can't go find something. You know what I mean? And so we just have this like influx of media and entertainment and streaming and all this stuff. And because of that, you know, people are more picky and they're more choosy about what they're going to consume when it comes to entertainment. And I think that is what's caused a lot of the competition for everything I just mentioned: wrestling, baseball, rock and roll, all that kind of stuff. And it's good and bad. It's good in the sense that like we have more, society has grown in technology and all this kind of stuff, but it's bad in the sense that, you know, we don't unify as much as we used to around certain things. I mean, wrestling felt like such a unifier back then. You know what I mean? Like I was the same as you. Like when I was in high school, like everybody watched wrestling. We would talk about it all the time, and it was cool. And I don't know that there's anything like that anymore, that everybody can kind of rally around and be like, yeah, we love this. We're fans of this, you know?
It feels like there were times where it still happened ever so slightly, that there are things that have happened in the culture. Maybe it's just because I was caught up in it. I keep referencing, like, for instance, Game of Thrones. I know not everybody's seen this, and maybe most of the people in the chat right now haven't seen it, but it felt like for a while there, like everywhere you turned, like you could find somebody that was talking about Game of Thrones. Like it was pretty freaking popular, you know. And it's just like, what does it take for wrestling to capture that zeitgeist to pull it? I mean, I see Dave Scooby in the chat talking about people have a shorter attention span. That's definitely one of the discussions we keep having about instant gratification and that sort of thing. Sergio Diaz echoing your sentiment, Will and Rob's, that baseball and wrestling are kindred spirits. That's why I like both. Through this year, I'm a bit turned off to baseball. Quality of play is down. 8 teams in the playoffs. DH universal, no good. So that's Mr. Diaz's opinion. And Christopher Boyd says, I hope Billy Corgan will come on your show soon. Yes, me too. Cool. Cool man 952. I think wrestling is not popular anymore because wrestling these days doesn't focus on storytelling and character development, and wrestling these days only focuses in the ring. I mean, it's weird though, because it's like it's not even good in the ring for a lot of this stuff, you know. Like they kind of cut you short. What was it like? I don't think it was last week's Raw, where I swear to God, I looked down through that thing and it was like, there was like 5 disqualifications in the show. And it's like, man, any other legitimate sports entity, if they had 5 games into disqualification, you'd be like, something is wrong. Like this cannot stand. Like we've got to do something. And it's like, nah, that's just a way for us to like not have to worry about what matches we put together this week. Let's just get somebody out there. And that's disappointing. But yeah, Dr. Red saying they're having difficulty finding kids to be on sports teams right now. Kids are just not interested in outside sports. COVID is also not helping the situation. So yeah, a lot of thoughts in the chat room, but we have been blessed by the presence of somebody who might have some insight. He is, after all, ladies and gentlemen, the doctor of love, the doctor of style, Dr. McLovin. Dr. Rob Stinson is here. Welcome, Doc. And happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday to you, man. I heard y'all still had a couple slices of gravy cake out here. I was like, man, I got to get in.
We saved you one. We saved you.
Man, I love you guys, man. I couldn't wait to get home, man. I mean, I'm so happy to see my kids at school again. I really am, and they're happy to see us. And you know, things are weird, but I can't lie, man. Every 2 minutes I had to look down at the chat. And it's like, man, I got to get me some gravy cake. Need to get on home.
You got here just in time for me to take my pee break. I was gonna make Gary awkwardly just talk by himself, but now you're here, so yeah. Take it away, guys.
Well, first of all, I want to point out how I love how every time Gary says entity, he emphasizes the T in that. It's like entity. I love that. So that's a positive.
I can't tell if you're making fun of me, Rob. I don't know if I appreciate this.
I'm not making fun of you.
The entity.
Yeah, the greatest entity of all. I love that, man. Secondly, I wanted to point out, you know, I started watching Gang of Thorns when Joffrey was killed because that was my boy, man. He's missing.
Spoiler alert, everybody. Wait a minute. Joffrey was your boy?
He's my boy, man. He's misunderstood, you know. but you know, apparently
nobody who actually watches that show thought Joffrey was misunderstood.
But they're gonna tie up some loose ends here in the final season coming up. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen either, sadly.
Yeah. No, I've been listening in tonight, man. Good discussion. Everything that you said, I'm 100%. I think again, our statement, the unified statement that we put out as a team has been that we believe wrestling should be simulated combat performance sport. It should be a contest under gentlemen's rules with a decided outcome under certain parameters. And if you're not doing that, then it's not wrestling anymore. And like, you know, I was listening in the car and I heard Will say that, look, you don't see MMA out there trying to imitate wrestling. They've got their own fan base. Why should wrestling imitate MMA? Wrestling is wrestling. It's the most noble of all sports. It's the greatest sport. You had world champions entertained in the White House by President Theodore Roosevelt and others. There's no shame in it. Wrestling is wrestling. So don't try to make it something it's not. So Will was spot on when he said that. And so I just have to echo that because you pretty much, if we have an NWA party line, that's it. And I 100% agree. Whatever this experiment is, it's not what we know and recognize to be wrestling. And if Dolph Ziggler, it's like on Moneyball. You're like, yeah, if he's such a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? If Dolph Ziggler is so freaking awesome, why doesn't he win any matches? Come on, guys. Give these intelligent fans some credibility. So I know I'm repeating a lot of what you guys said, but those are the points that I heard, and I just wanted to agree with them. So,
well, I always will respect you taking the time to agree with me. So that's very nice.
Yeah, I cherish moments like this.
Yeah, we're just trying to get to the bottom of the industry. Like what's stopping wrestling from being at the peak that it once was. But yeah, I think Will kind of hit the nail on the head with there's just a lot of different things targeting your attention right now. The world's a different place than it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. That goes for a lot of different things, but it's just it's probably hard for anybody to get those kind of ratings and be that culturally relevant. It's just I don't know, man. It's tough. Let's move on to some other news here real quick to bust through some of the stuff that Will has out here for us. Will's our news guy. If you guys didn't know, he's throwing these out. The next one is just basically just talking about, according to WrestleTalk.com, on the Arm Drag Takedown podcast, Chris Bay was on there, and he talked about how much of an inspiration Eddie Guerrero was to him. He says, it was watching Eddie Guerrero win the WWE World title, and I realized I had to give that feeling to the world. That feeling I'm having right now, watching this, is the feeling I want to give people when they watch me perform. That's kind of when I knew this is what I had to do, what I really wanted to do, what I love to do. All that time was about me trying to prove to the office I could not only oh, sorry, this is when he got into the promotion before he actually signed a contract. He said, all that time, it was about me trying to prove to the office I could not only hang with the roster, I could provide something different than the rest of the roster. I could essentially have my spot without taking someone else's. I'm grateful I got that opportunity. I'd say I haven't wasted it. Being the current X Division champion, the Finesse Division champion. I like that quote there from Chris Bay for a few things. I like a lot of that, obviously, because I mean, if you're gonna like have a wrestler that you kind of mimic their career or hope to have their career, it's Eddie Guerrero. You could do a lot worse than Eddie Guerrero because that guy was amazing. But Chris Bay's made a name for himself on the independent scene. He's a pretty impressive dude. But I also love that quote about the Finesse Division champion, just because I've always wondered with Impact, like, what is the X Division? Is it the Intercontinental title? Is it the Cruiserweight title? Like, what is that? Like, Willie Mack was holding it, so no offense to Willie, I don't think he was like Cruiserweight material. So it's just a weird one. So yeah, maybe it's just that more stylistically prevalent person. But anyway, yeah, just a cool little note on Chris Bay. Any thoughts, fellas, on Chris and the X Division?
I just like that because I don't feel like we talk about Eddie Guerrero a lot. I know he wasn't a presence in the NWA, but I mean he's top notch, and I think a lot of people are inspired by Eddie Guerrero, and they probably don't talk about it as much, and we don't really give him the full credit that he deserves for really being a superstar. And so that was just, to me, that was just kind of a feel-good article of like, it's nice to see. It's nice to see a guy like Chris Bay throwing it back to such a legit legend and saying, hey, this is the guy that inspired me, not somebody with a off-the-wall gimmick or, this big entertainer type personality. I mean, Eddie Guerrero was a class act and did a lot of great wrestling for a lot of years. And so,
what's funny though, like when you look back right now, and especially in today's crop of wrestler, do any of you ever notice like Hulk Hogan was like the biggest draw in the world for forever, like just huge. And I could be off base here, but it never feels like you see Hulk Hogan referenced as like the guy that like people like reference as like, I saw Hulk Hogan and I knew like I was going to be a wrestler. I wanted to be Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan was a draw, even just as we were talking about, he was a draw for like the general public, but not for the people that like wanted to be professional wrestlers. The people that wanted to be professional wrestlers understood that like, okay, Hogan's a draw because of the way he looks and his personality and stuff like that. I don't want that. I want to be like an athlete in the ring. I want to be Bret the Hitman Hart. I want to be Eddie Guerrero. I want to be, Ric Flair, up best all around. Like that. Those are the people that, when you go into a profession, you're looking at the people who did it all really good, and they were skilled, technical athletes. And yeah, I mean, Hulk Hogan was a big draw, but in a mainstream way, not in a way where like people are like, it's the same way in sports too. I mean, you ask a lot of sports players and they're going to tell you, they're not going to tell you the big superstars that were making all the headlines. They're going to tell you the guys that were like, had long careers and had solid careers and, batted over 300 for their whole career and stuff like that. Not the Sammy Sosas and Mark McGuire's, not to keep making it about baseball, but Rob's here now. So I feel like I have to cater to him.
But it's like you get the Ric Flair would arguably be the biggest name. Like obviously lots of people reference Ric Flair. Maybe I see Sergio Diaz in there talking about Mr. Perfect and The Undertaker. I mean, Mr. Perfect, 100%. I agree with The Undertaker. I think it's your Mr. Perfect, it's your Bret Hart, probably Shawn Michaels you could throw in there. And but it's guys like Eddie, it's guys like Ray. It's like these kind of guys are the ones that like the wrestlers that wrestle now are like, that's who I saw and I needed to be them.
Yeah, you'll see people like they'll say like Lance Storm, man, his work in the ring, or El Vampiro, or people like that, that a lot of people might, that aren't nerds like all of us would say are relatively, I mean, they obviously made the big time and were WCW or WWE but more or less when you compare him to Hogan, they're more or less obscure, you know. But I think like with Hogan, you never see anybody saying, "Hey man, I want to do George the Animal Steel. He inspired me to be a wrestler." But at one time, George the Animal Steel was over like Rover, man. When I was growing up, I mean, his love affair with like, or not love affair, but his love interest in Miss Elizabeth, that was money, man. But that's not the kind of thing that inspired workers, you know, because workers, I think that wrestlers are a smart, very intelligent sort of people. At least the people that I interact with on my very small independent level here in Ringgold. These are people that study it. They're very tuned to storytelling in the ring. They're very in tune to mat style, and you're not going to draw that kind of thing from a brawler like a guy like say Hulk Hogan or a Stan Hansen or somebody like that. And there's no disrespect to those because they were fantastic and they made their contribution. But that's not what, you know, that's not what the intelligent wrestler who wants to be a wrestler, who wants to go in and perform in the ring and do technical stuff. That's not what inspires them.
Yeah,
so it's just a different sort of character, you know?
Yeah, I've seen Dr. Red Tyler in there mention, I'm a manager. I'm motivated by Bobby Heenan and Jim Cornette. I think if you want to be a talker, like if you want to be an excellent speaker in the business, you'd be crazy if Bobby Heenan wasn't number one. Jim Cornette, Paul Heyman. God, I'd even throw Jesse Ventura in there. I love Jesse Ventura, like on commentary and stuff. I always thought he was
Paul
fantastic.
Ellering.
Yeah.
Paul Ellering was so good. Jimmy Hart, you know, I mean, these guys are just, we actually met Jimmy Hart. He actually did one of the shows that we do here locally. And you know, I came out and I had this sequin jacket on and he was really entertained by my monologue there at the beginning. I opened the show that night and Jimmy Hart, he pulled me to the side afterwards, like, Rob, it's like, I'm going to tell you, I tell people all the time, if you look like someone in the crowd, you'll be someone in the crowd. And I appreciate what you did. So I was like, hey man, thanks.
Hey, that's solid advice. You got it right here, folks. Right here.
You were like, I wear this jacket every day. Like,
yeah, this is just my street clothes, bro.
I usually don't have pants either. So
yeah.
It's but
hey, did we do our Manscaped plug yet?
No, we haven't. Speaking of not wearing pants, you always want to look your best when you're not wearing pants. That's why the manscaped.com engineering team spent 18 months perfecting the ultimate below the belt trimmer for your grooming needs. You guys got to take care of yourself below the belt. You know how to do it. It's manscaped.com. We say it all the time. It's got a ceramic blade, a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. It's quiet, it's fast, simple. Comes with a cool charging stand, USB charger. It's great. You don't want to miss out on this. Go get the Lawnmower 3.0. They even got oh God, I just forgot the name of the thing now. They have the for like your ear and nose hair and stuff like that. That's kind of cool. They just came out with. But anyway, you know what? You go to manscaped.com. You check out all the stuff they have to offer. Ball deodorant, Rob probably needs all of that stuff. You got to go get it. Manscaped.com. Use the code NWA Pod and you get 20% off and free shipping. NWA Pod at manscaped.com. I wanted to give a quick shout out to my boy Dean Malenko, who's getting mentioned all throughout the chat. And my God, love Dean Malenko.
Greats, one of the
always
greats.
Loved. Growing up, like I still appreciated Dean Malenko. Like just early on, I always felt bad for him by the time he made it to WWE, just knowing that he would never get the credit he deserved. And the biggest push he got was being that like wannabe suave dude, like ladies man Dean Malenko, which is an interesting character for him. But
let me tell you something.
But the Iceman Dean Malenko, come on.
Now, if you've got the full package, you know, if you got the ability to talk, work, and you know, and you got good looks, you know, and not many of us have that. You know, some of us do, but not many of us have that. But if you got it, you got it. However, from time to time, you see somebody that might not be the best talker, but doesn't need to be a good talker. And Dean Malenko was that guy. There's only a couple of those guys like that. I mean, I'm thinking of guys like Kerry Von Erich, who wasn't a great talker. He didn't have to be. He had the look, and he was such a dynamic performer. You believed him. You know, really, except for maybe Kevin and Fritz, the Von Erich family weren't known for being spectacular talkers. And Dean Malenko is like that, man. He wasn't. We mentioned Lance Storm and Vampiro. Those guys didn't have to be good talkers. It would have been nice, they didn't have to be. Not everybody's Chris Jericho. You know what I mean? Not everybody's Eddie Guerrero. Not everybody's Ric Flair. But Dean Malenko is the one. I think the person who most got over ever. He and like Chris Benoit, without having to be great on the mic, they just did it just by sheer believability. Just sheer intensity.
Yeah, Malinko, just that man of 1,000 holds gimmick, that was enough. You believed it. Like, you can't out wrestle Dean Malenko. You just knew it. And yes, James H. Jackson Jr. mentioning it. Malenko versus Guerrero in like ECW, those two guys going at it.
Epic.
And like I think they even did it at WCW and stuff like that. It's just ridiculous. And when you threw Jericho in there and Ray and just a lot of those guys, they had some badass matches.
Yep.
Brian Cervantes mentioning William Regal, by the way, and I was just listening to something the other day, and I wish to God I could remember who said it so I could give them credit for it. But somebody was talking about that, like a wrestler that like in a different era or something, like if you could go back and change one thing, like who was missed out on it, and like whoever it was saying William Regal was 100% it. Like I think it was another wrestler talking about like the William Regal they knew, like he was confident and had charisma in the back and stuff.
Don't you think that a William Regal, like, is in that Doug Williams vein, like a Nick Aldis, would fit perfectly into the NWA mold today?
Oh yeah.
Gosh,
yeah, 100%.
that is freaking money, man.
Yeah, I think it's they just got this idea that he was this one character or something, and they kept trying to force it on him. But it just Regal was good, man. Regal is still good as the GM of NXT. Like the times I've seen him, he's a solid. Just he's good for the business, and they trust him. That's always the crappy part, right? Like when you know a wrestler is like really really solid, but then you see a person who you feel like should have had a chance, like an Adam Pearce or a William Regal or something like that. They just become like figures in the WWE, like they're like backstage talent or like agents or something like that. I mean, I'm sure that's nice for them. At least the business is keeping them afloat, but it's like, dang, now you're relying on them to groom your next generation of talent, but like you never gave them the chance to like be that. And anyway, that's a whole other subject. Brian Myers over on Cultaholic.com. Brian Myers, who is the former Kurt Hawkins, right? Did I say that right? Yes. He showed up on a podcast the other day, and it was on Sitting Ringside with Dave Pinzer. He said they were talking about how Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson talked about on their show that WWE was just tossing out money, like when contracts were up to like keep people from going to AEW. And so on the Sitting Ringside with Dave Pinzer podcast, they asked Brian Myers about this. And he said, quote, "Oh yeah, astronomical money. WWE's motives were so obvious that the new deal started getting nicknamed the Please Don't Go to AEW contract." He said it was once you were offered something and you said no, it went up. No matter who you were, it went up for everybody, and then it just kept happening. It wound up being what it was. Too good to be true, really, to be honest with you. More money than I ever imagined making in this business that I signed for. And like I said, I had already been a producer. The big thing for them was getting you for years. Everybody's contract was 5 years. That was their big thing. And, all the boys are calling it the Please Don't Go to AEW contract, but that's fine because I'm like, all right, I'm comfortable here. I enjoy it. I'm set up for post in-ring stuff. I'm more than fine signing with this. But yeah, it was basically just kind of in that discussion about, that WWE was just trying to keep people from walking away. Now these people that you're hearing this from now are the people they ended up releasing anyway. So it wasn't by any means guaranteed for them, I guess. But still, it gives you like a little insight for folks like Gallows and Anderson and Brian Myers here, who's like, you know, at a certain point, you're like, man, if they're going to give me this much money to do nothing, then I still have to do it. Like it's just so much money that they're offering me not to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and here's a question I always have, and maybe Rob, you're a doctor, you might can answer this. How is it that they can lock these guys in for 5 years and then just release them? How does that work? Because to me, that seems really underhanded. Like I'm going to tell you, Rob, you have to be on this podcast for the next 5 years. You can't do any other podcasts, anything else, not even Piper's Notes. You can't even go on there. You got to be only on this podcast. I'm going to pay you an astronomical amount of money. And then like a year from now, I can change my mind and be like, no, you're released. How does that even work?
It shouldn't, but I don't really understand the nature. Like, I mean, I understand how contracts work. We deal with contracts in my line of work, but I don't understand how those types of like employer. See, I mean, in my line of work, we deal with unions and stuff like that, and there's collective bargaining, and there's we're a right to work state, and so that's not a reality. But I guess it's sort of like there has to be some sort of severance. I mean, if you're signing a contract, I imagine there has to be some sort of penalty for releasing. I guess if it were me, if you guys said, "Hey, Rob, we're going to pay you this money. You're on this podcast for 5 years, and you can't do anything else," I'm going to do it if you're paying me the right amount of money. But behind the scenes, I'm going to be perfecting my craft elsewhere and always be preparing for a plan B. So it's just part of like knowing the nature of the business. And there are a million podcasts out there. We are currently number 45 in the second most populated nation in the world in India of all podcasts. So we're doing pretty good with our brand and the way we interact and the message we put out. But at any time that can change. So I'm going to have a backup plan. And I think wrestlers are pretty much they function as independent contractors more or less. If you're an independent contractor, you need to have a backup plan and a backup plan to that too. So, but I don't like it. I mean, I agree with you, Will. In principle, I think, a handshake should be a handshake and a contract should mean a contract. But, I understand also from a business perspective that things sour. I mean, we have, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here or make this more than what it should be, but we have entered into contract with educators. And in Georgia, the tenure system is after 3 years, you're granted tenure. Then it's very difficult to remove someone after they're tenured. So you have 3 years to decide if this person's on your team. So you bring a person in saying, hey, we've got a 3 to 5 year plan for you. But after 1 year, if you're dissatisfied as the employer with that they don't mesh with your vision, I can let them go. And there's no repercussion at all. There's no collective bargaining thing. That's just the way that it works in Georgia. Every state's different. There's no federal arrangement for that. But
it just seems to really favor the employer, which obviously, I mean,
it does. It does favor the employer. But I think knowing that, I always tell, because I've recruited teachers, and I always encourage teachers to have a 3 year, a 5 year, a 6 year plan, and to have backup plans. Just because, just in my case right now in the state of Georgia, we're heavily furloughed. We're losing something like 15 days this year, which that's a large chunk of salary for me. I make pretty good money. I'm not going to lie, but for most teachers don't make that good. Especially first, second, third year teachers, they're not making a lot of money. And you lose 10, 15 days, that's life-changing. But that can happen at any time because we serve at the pleasure of the state legislature. We serve at the pleasure of the public. And whenever public circumstances change, you have to have a backup plan. So this falls back into, as adults and in wrestling as an independent contractor, you've got to take care of yourself. That's why I don't fault an Eddie Kingston, or I don't fault a Ricky Starks for doing what's right for them. If there's someone that's offering them money, you're loyal, and it's not about the money. It's about what the money says. Someone looked at Eddie Kingston and Ricky Starks and said, let me tell you right now, we love what you're doing in the NWA. We think this is what you're worth. And if someone came to me and said today, hey, Rob, look, man, if Jay Kels came to me, they say, look, man, I know Gary and Will, you love them. They're your boys. They're giving you these Manscaped 2.0s and whatnot. And I know you like those. but I'm about to hook you up with the Manscaped 5.0.
Oh,
and free,
no.
And free
What?
pizza for life.
Nobody
Is you in
gives
or
you the
is you in?
5.0.
Did you say
Especially all that.
Did you say free pizza?
Free pizza for life.
Oh man, where do I sign?
That's what I'm saying. You got to look at for you too. So I don't want to villainize the business owners or the corporate side, and I don't want to villainize the independent contractor. Everybody has an interest, and when they meet together, like in the case of a Nick Aldis and a Thunder Rosa, when both of their interests align, that's beautiful. That works out well for everybody. But companies have to do what's best for them. I understand that, you know, Thunder's husband can appreciate that because he's got his hands in that. David Marquez can appreciate that, but also the workers can appreciate the fact that at the end of the day, I'm just me. I'm not a corporation. I've got to look out for my brand. I've got to take care of myself and my family, my needs. So I see both sides. You know, I'm not going to turn any side into the bad guy, but it's best if they can work together.
That's good. And I mean, you know, I'm happy to see a lot of these guys landing back on their feet. I mean, that's one of the things we talked about a lot on the show is, you know, all those releases that WWE did is kind of a black mark on the industry. It was a super depressing time along with the pandemic and everything that was going on. And so I'm glad to see these guys, like I said, landing on their feet. But yeah, I don't know. That's never sat well with me. But just, you know, in terms of this news, talking about WWE throwing like ungodly money at people to keep them from going to AEW, I get that too. I can appreciate that, as you're saying, Rob, from a company standpoint, from a business standpoint. But it just kind of confirms a lot of the issues that I think a lot of us have with the WWE, that they're going to use their money to try and not make their product successful because they didn't take all these people and make superstars out of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? They didn't take EC3 and Kurt Hawkins and all these people that were released, Rusev, and they didn't make superstars out of them and make good with that money. Even Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, you know, they had big potential. They could be huge stars in WWE, but they squandered them. And
don't you think, Will, that this has this is a more fundamental issue with the WWE beyond like business rank? This has to do with the fact that I think the WWE, and this is not everything, because I think there's many bright spots there, but don't you think that this has to do with the fact that the WWE has lost its bearing on what pro wrestling is?
Yes.
It's not, they don't even call it wrestling anymore. You know, they don't even say the word wrestling. So, you know, we're dealing with like 3 or 4 problems behind that, before we even get to why in the world you release Anderson and Gallows. These guys are money. I mean, they just made freaking $1 million doing Talking Shop of Mania with 3 camcorders. You know, I mean, it's.
Well, you don't have to look any further than Cody Rhodes to make your argument.
Boom.
You know, they looked at Cody Rhodes and they said, "Oh, you're Dustin's brother, right? All right, then you can do the same gimmick as him, and we'll give you a different name." And all the while he's saying, "Hey, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this." And I know he had some things as Cody Rhodes before that, but got to the point where it's just like, okay, you're Stardust, and he's like, "I don't want to do that. I want to do more." Well, no, this is who you are. And as soon as they cut him loose, man, he became a freaking superstar, you know, and now is part of running his own promotion, essentially, that is a direct competitor, the only real direct competitor to the WWE, so much so that they have contracts that they were handing out that were nicknamed "Please don't go to AEW" contracts for 5 years, you know?
Right.
So,
yeah, absolutely right. And with Cody Rhodes, this is a guy who has been raised. He is wrestling royalty. If anybody knows what's going to work or sell, it's going to be Cody Rhodes. You know what I mean? And this is not even a good analogy, but just to put it in perspective from my standpoint, I have 2 guys here. Their names are Lex Lee and Kevin Coughlin. They're a tag team called the Jungle Kings. They are fantastic. They've wrestled the Young Bucks. They are good. They look good. They're outstanding workers. They're believable. They're good on the mic. They show up at WWE. WWE actually puts them on. If you go back and YouTube right now, if you go YouTube WWE Gary Graham, that is actually Lex Lee. He's my buddy. He works here. He's the guy that's on Viral. If you watch the Viral show. Well, he shows up there and they tell him this. They said, "You're going out there. Your name is not Lex Lee. Your name is not this, that. Your name is Gary Graham. You have 2 minutes and 36 seconds, and this is the sequence that you do. This, and that. Do not deviate from it. If you do, you won't ever be back. And that's what, and guys like Drew McIntyre are facing that. You know what I mean? This isn't just Lex Lee, who's an independent worker. Guys like Drew McIntyre are being told that. And that's not right. That's why, it's not so much like everybody wants to go to WWE for sure, because that's the big, everybody wants to play in pinstripes. I'm a lifelong Braves fan. They said, Rob, bro, I want to sign you to be the freaking ball boy at Yankee Stadium. You get to wear pinstripes in Yankee Stadium. I'm doing it. But it comes with a cost. You know what I mean? So when all these guys like Cody Rhodes and Brody Lee and all that leave, and they talk about just feeling free and fresh in this new environment where they're allowed to be creative, that's what it's about, man. Workers want to be able to have freedom. And I think when they got so micromanaging and so preoccupied with the script, that's okay if the script is good.
Yeah.
If the script is okay, that's fine. But the script sucks, man. The script sucks.
Yeah.
So
this was, I didn't send you guys this article, but Eric Bischoff, who appeared on Dynamite last week during that debate segment, was talking on his podcast about the differences between creative with WWE and AEW. It's exactly what you're talking about, Rob. He said, WWE, they're telling you where to put the commas and the apostrophes and everything in your promo. And AEW was a lot more collaborative. So there was creative that was in control, but they were building concepts and directions for stories. But ultimately it was up to the guys to decide how they wanted to execute that. And I think that's the difference.
I think you can see obviously from like a thing like Cody and the TNT title being defended against Warhorse and Eddie Kingston and Ricky Starks when these guys weren't under contract. I mean, they're obviously open to other things that WWE would never touch in a million years. That like they're letting these guys come in and freaking Warhorse is taking it to Cody. Like it's not like Cody's like rolling over Warhorse. It's like Warhorse is giving Cody a fight, and Warhorse, at least to date, is not like a signed AEW competitor. Eddie Kingston wasn't when he was there, So it's just,
yeah.
I think that shows a whole different mentality.
Yeah, and in doing so, Cody like elevated like independent wrestling. He made a statement that these guys are real athletes. They can anybody can come in here at any time and can compete with Cody Rhodes. Because like you said, Warhorse, man, he's a journeyman. He's been here, and here, and Cody Rhodes, even by winning, put Warhorse over.
Same thing with Kingston.
Yep. Nobody watched that and thought any less of Kingston. If anything, they thought more of him.
No. No, nobody could watch that match and say he was buried. I think for me, a lot of this boils down to the mentality like we're talking about. And I'm a big advocate, of course, as you guys know, I am married to the positive life goddess herself, the beautiful life coach, Natalia Martin. And so we very much adhere to the idea that you should be taking positive approaches to everything. When it comes to business, when it comes to life, parenting, marriage, all that stuff, you should be on offense, not defense. And this is one of those things that, just continues to make me uneasy about WWE because it seems like they were playing defense. We're just going to hoard all our chips. We're not going to, we're going to keep it all close to the vest. We're not going to let anybody out. We don't want any competition. And to me, like, that's where we're talking about AEW. Fundamentally, they're going in on the offense and they're saying, you know what? We don't care about that stuff. We're going to make the best product that we think we can make with what we have and the resources that are available to us, even if they're not under contract. Even if they're not, so what? We're going to put on a killer show. We're going to be the talk of the wrestling world the next day, and in a big way, they're doing that. And you can get a lot farther, in my opinion, doing that than you can playing this defense. Hoarding talent, just being scared of competition. That's kind of where I come from. So when I read a story like that, I'm just like, ugh, no, I just cringe. And they're at the top, quote unquote, of the wrestling world, which is something that the three of us and everyone in the chat love enough to be sitting here at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night talking about it. Like, it's just cringy to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and it's almost like, and I know this is not happening because I know there are people that are important and that have influence like Edge and Triple H that respect the NWA and respect old school wrestling, but it almost seems as like they're in a dark room conspiring against wrestling. Like, how else can we screw this up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's what it seems like. And then you have these silly, ridiculous statements putting out about freaking, you probably already talked about it, about attention spans, you know, or long-term signings and stuff. I mean, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, where have you been since 1948?
Yeah.
Since we're talking about wives here, Will mentioning his wife, let's take a second to mention somebody else's wife. Our Real World's heavyweight champion, Nick Aldis, his wife, showed back up finally on WWE on Monday night. And it was announced that she'll be wrestling Natalia coming up
Cool.
next week. And this is the first time she's been in the ring since June of 2019. That she suffered a serious knee injury when she was working with Carmella. And she did do some commentator stuff on Main Event and that sort of thing. But it'll be good to see Mickie James back. So we just as the this is the NWA podcast, we want to give a shout out to Mickie James. Yeah, that glad to see you back.
Not to do a quick turn, but you know, I put my feelings about the WWE aside anytime that the wife, the queen, the Real World's champion, Nick Aldis, I'm gonna be for it and I'm gonna put it over. Sorry if that's contradictory, but happy for her. Happy that she's been off TV for a long time. She's been, in my opinion, one of those people they've been hoarding because she probably could have been living it up anywhere else. But I'm glad, you know, at least now they're bringing her back and letting her do something because she's high quality talent, believable. I mean, she's one of the good ones. So glad they're getting her back in the spotlight.
Yeah, multi-time women's champion and just a legend in the business as far as women's wrestling goes, or as far as wrestling in general goes. So good to see.
Music recording star. I mean, she's a multi-threat. I like to call Aldis the national treasure. She is the national pleasure. She is so multi-talented, and you know, from acting to music to wrestling, they're the great wrestling power couple, the national treasure and the national pleasure.
Look at that, clever Dr. Stinson.
That's clever.
Hey, that cost me $70,000, bro. Come up with stuff like that. $70,000.
Gary,
if you go and make a donation on NWAFam.com, you can help me pay that down.
We got to sign Rob to one of those 5-year deals, Gary.
Yeah.
That's what we got to do. Yeah, if you want to help sign Dr. Stinson to a 5-year deal, you can go to the NWApod.com and you can donate a little bit of money to either buy us a beer or buy us a Stinson for another year.
Yeah, pay off Stinson's tuition.
Listen, I'm drinking a Silver Bullet right now. This is not like, you know, if you're going to buy me a beer, buy me a good one so I don't have to drink these anymore. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
the struggle is real, man.
Fellas, the only other news that I had, just so we stay topical, just to throw it out there. Well, let's see. Actually, I had 2 more quick items, and we'll wrap it up and go to the after show with the chat room. Jeff Cobb spoke to Fightful.com recently about his contract negotiations, but he would not specify where he'd sign. He admittedly felt like the belle of the ball for a while when everyone was making him offers. Speaking of, he stated that WWE did make contact with him during his free agency period, but Impact Wrestling did not. Fightful's teasing that they've got an interview coming out with him this week in conjunction with his appearance in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Jeff Cobb, newsworthy because, of course, he'll be taking on the Real World's heavyweight champion coming up soon at this Pro Wrestling Expo that's happening in Texas at the end of the month. He will be part of a triple threat with Nick Aldis and a mystery opponent. We don't know who yet. But should be exciting. But the first world title defense that we know of that'll be happening since the hiatus for everything. So Jeff Cobb, no pushover, and has apparently been in contract negotiations with multiple locales. So it'd be cool to see where he ends up.
Yep.
Yeah. This is a guy who can go, by the way. I mean, let me tell you, and I believe in my champion, and I think he's going to be okay, but he can't pull a James Buster Douglas here, because Cobb is someone who can win a world title. So I'm just saying, and I'm sure our champion Nick Aldis is not overlooking him, but I hope he's not, because this is the guy who can go. This is a legitimate competitor.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, we did stick around and do this long enough to find out that the WWE Raw ratings are in, and total viewership is up slightly. Good for them. But 18 to 49, that rating dropped by another 8%. So they are
I'm shocked.
They suffering, y'all.
Yep.
But the let's see here. It says Raw had, according to Meltzer, Raw had split messages this week as viewers increased 7,000 from last week to 1.72 million, but 18 to 49 was down 8% to 0.47. The latter being the third lowest number in the history of the show. Raw finished 5th for the night, 18 to 49, and was 24th overall. It was 5th among non-news shows. The NBA game head-to-head did a 0.67 in 1849 and 1.53 million viewers. So it's actually beating the NBA, which is something, you know, so it's not – I don't know what that says, really. It's tough to say. It steadily had a drop, as you'd expect. From at 8, it was 1.81 million viewers. 9, it was down to 1.75. 10, it was 1.6. In contrast to that, like The Rock has a show, if you guys aren't aware, on NBC that is called Titan Games, and it drew 3.54 million viewers, which was the lowest number of their entire season. So that they're just The Rock over there is whipping his old company's ass, is what I'm trying to say. And but anyway, just those are the Raw numbers. They're just not capturing that key demo. It's another thing we just have been talking about over and over again. But there we go.
Yep.
Yeah. What you said.
And that's all I have to say about that.
I know it seems like I could never get tired of burying the WWE, but I think I've reached my limit for one day. We could talk about other things.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about one other thing before we wrap up the podcast portion of this and just go to the chat room, because I feel like it's part of our duty to discuss this. Guys, if you have not yet, or if you're not aware of this yet, Thunder Rosa, the lovely and wonderful women's world champion, the owner of the Burke, the real women's champion, she has a show that she and her company, Mission Pro Wrestling, they're putting it on September 18th. It is available now for ticket purchasing if you'd like to. It's located in Buda, Texas. Friday, September 18th, 2020. You can go to missionprowrestling.net. Mission Pro Wrestling, you got to check this thing out. I thought I'd have a more clever commercial planned out for you than that right now, but they're not paying us to sponsor them. We're just telling you this because this is one of the hottest tickets in wrestling right now. You got to get on that. Perhaps even more important than anything else in wrestling, and we're talking about even NWA going to the United Wrestling Network. Mission Pro Wrestling, Hell Hath No Fury, Friday, September 18th. We've got a stacked card of seven matches. I just counted them right now in front of me. 7 hot matches between some badass ladies. You guys got to check this thing out. It's going to be streaming on the Title Match Network. If you can't be there live, you need to get this thing and promote the hell out of it. Let people know you want to see it. Let's make this thing blow up. aside from all of the great talent that's going to be there, you're going to have folks like All Elite Wrestling's Big Swole is on that card, taking on La Rosa Negra. But the most special of specials, the biggest match possibly of the year 2020, and there's a lot of news happening in 2020, but this could be the biggest. It's Thunder Rosa is defending the NWA Women's Championship title against the American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow. That match is going to be a blast. It is going to be a knockdown, drag-out brawl. I cannot wait to see this one. Guys, hell hath no fury. Tell everybody. Tell your mama. Tell your sister, your brother, your aunts and uncles. Tell them all to get that thing. Title Match Network. You can watch that from anywhere. It streams. But if you can get there, if you're anywhere close to Texas, you want to be there. They require face masks, but it's going to be worth it. Paint your face mask to look like a sugar skull in support of Thunder Rosa. Go watch Hell Hath No Fury. We can't talk about this enough. Anything to add, guys, before we wrap this up for the podcast?
No, well, I think, another big part, just in addition to the stacked card and the excitement for us, especially surrounding that NWA Women's World Title match, is Mission Pro is a completely women-run organization.
How would I forget to mention that? My God.
From the production to the commentary to everything. And, if you thought WWE's Evolution was groundbreaking, that doesn't hold a candle to this, because this is going to be groundbreaking. This is going to be history. I'm a little jealous because Rob's going to be there to experience it live. Super excited for that. We're obviously 100% going to be doing pre-post show, all that stuff right here on This Is the NWA podcast. We'll just have to be This Is Mission Pro podcast for a couple of days probably. But, that to me is spectacular. It speaks volumes about, women being empowered to play just as big a part in wrestling as men. It's no secret that wrestling has been a mostly male-run entity for a long time. And so for me, that's the most groundbreaking part of this. And that's the part that I am really the most behind, because that kind of innovation and that kind of forward thinking to me is huge. And it's absolutely great for this industry, for this business that we all love.
100%. Can't agree more. Folks, I've got a big question for, I think that Brian Cervantes is still in the chat. I have a question for him about this card so we can get some insight about it. But I'm going to save that till the after show. Also, we're going to talk about some other things regarding that NWA and UWN partnership and see what other information we could dig up and find out and talk about and see what our chat room thinks. If you're listening to this right now on the podcast feed and you want to be a part of that, you got to come subscribe, youtube.com/the NWA pod. We'd love to have you here live as part of this community, the hashtag NWA fam community, interacting with us and with the rest of the chat room live.
Yeah, and shout out to our 2 new subscribers since we started the show tonight. Thank you.
Holy moly, we are so close, guys. We are so close. If you're listening to this and you haven't subscribed, come on, help us out. Let us get it to 400. Will we hit 1,000, folks? I mean, we're going to have the hours, I have no doubt. So we just got to get to 1,000, and we get monetized over here on the old.
And you just wait, because when we get monetized, we're going to have pyro, we're going to have lights, we're going to have entrance music, all that stuff. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and if you were here live right now in the chat room, you would get to see the absolute war that is going on right now between Robert Stinson and Jason Havlick and Brian Cervantes. It's like we got a triple threat happening in the chat.
Can I just say this? And I love these kinds of discussions. I don't want Jason Havlick to think like we're being heated or anything. I just want him to know that that Cobb is a legitimate champion. Now, everybody has to have a first world title reign if they're going to be a world champion. Ric Flair at some point was a 0-time world champion. So the fact that I feel like Havlick, I think you're looking for like, what are his world championships? Well, he doesn't have one yet. I mean, the Ring of Honor World TV title is considered a World TV title, not by PWI, but he has to have if he's ever going to be a world champion, he has to win his first world title. This is a guy that's got titles, man. He was a Lucha Underground champion. has won a major New Japan championship. This is a real, legitimate competitor. Don't trust. I'm just a mark, man. I'm just a fan like you guys. Don't take my word for it. Ask J Cal. J Cal will tell you. This is someone who, if Nick Aldis is not prepared, this is a guy who could win his first World's Championship. And I am the biggest Nick Aldis fan that you know. I'm just telling you, do not sleep on Cobb. This is the real deal.
We are about 10 minutes from Rob Stinson's voice hitting another octave. So you guys don't want to miss that. You got to be here live.
Listen, now you're my boy. I appreciate the debate, man. And we're all friends here. So don't take this in any kind of spirit, but just go and YouTube this guy. Reach out to Cal. J Cal's got footage of him. He's got an archive of amazing matches. I watched one the other day and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy can roll. He's the real deal. So, and he's got the credentials and the resume to back it up. So that's all I'm saying. But I mean, Nick Aldis, no doubt, is the best in the world. There are not many people that have the resume to match his, but that's not how it works. I mean, when you're a young guy, you have to build a resume, and Cobb is that hungry young guy building the resume. So just because he's not a world champion yet doesn't mean that he's not a credible contender.
And I could hear you over there. I could hear you listening to this right now. You who are listening to this on your drive to and from work right now. I can hear you saying, like, I want in on this conversation. I have things to offer. You can do that. YouTube.com/the NWA pod. We are live every Tuesday night and Sunday night. You can join us and be a part of these chats. We'd love you to be here. We can't wait to talk to you. But as we always do, we're going to wrap up the podcast portion and just go and focus solely on the chat room. Will, you look like you've got something to say to the podcast listener portion of this, so I'll let you go.
I was just going to say, you can find me at Hey It's Will on Twitter, and that's where I live. So come interact with me and follow me, and this is a community. And if you, I will add to what Gary said and confirm, if you have not experienced the live version of this show and the chat, it's literally like a party where everyone's just talking about wrestling, but the three of us have a microphone and a camera. So it is very interactive. It is very informational. You learn a lot, you grow a lot. And if you can get Rob riled up, that's the best part. That's the best outcome. And it's not hard to do. If you need some advice on how to get Rob riled up, just DM me on Twitter. I'll give you the talking points, how to get him going. But yeah, come join us and tell all your friends.
And man, and man, I'm not riled up. Jason Havlick is my boy, man. He's in here all the time. He's faithful. He's NWA fam. This is what we're here for, to debate. And I'm gonna tell you, when we go off the air and we're just chatting, me and Will and Gary, we have some heated debate sometimes, but we love each other, and that's all part of the fun. It's like someone who doesn't know you, they can rag on you and you'd be offended. If you really love them and know them, they rag on you, you rag on them harder. So Havlick, don't take it, man. We love you, man. But to answer your question, Dalton Castle, yes, is a credible contender. For sure.
Rob, save it for the after show. Tell these people where they can find you.
You can find me at rstinson4. You can find me on Instagram at where?
RD Stinson.
RD Stinson. Robert D. Stinson. Not 4, just Robert D. Stinson. You can find me on MySpace at Tom.
Oh my God. Here we go. All right. I am at This Is Gary Horde. The show is at the NWA pod on all of the social media stuff. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help us get those numbers up. Give us a rating on iTunes. If you're feeling froggy and you like what you hear here and you want to help us out, then let's make this thing bigger and better. And the more power we get behind it, the more community we build with you folks, it allows things like yesterday's surprise live show that's already up on the podcast feed, and everybody live got to experience, where a surprise appearance by the Real World Champion Nick Aldis and David Marquez just popped in for no good reason except to talk to us and tell us all the news. Anyway, that's it for the podcast portion. We're going to the after show, and until next week, enjoy your gravy cake. All right.
Birthday gravy cake.
That's right. Birthday cake.
Gravy cake. Hey, we're here. We're here with the after show with you folks in the chat room. Thunder's husband, Brian Cervantes. Oh, go ahead, Will. I'm sorry.
Are we gonna make a deal like when we hit 1,000 subs, we're gonna tell people what gravy cake means? Should we do
I hope
something?
not, because I still don't know.
I know. I remember.
Oh, you remember, Gary? You just don't remember.
Oh,
Whoa, very weird.
interesting.
Okay, well,
don't get all bull. Don't get all weird now. You remember that.
all right, let's talk to Brian Cervantes real quick. I have a big question. I'm looking at the Mission Pro Wrestling Hell Hath No Fury card, and Holiday. Where is she? What's up with that? She's on the main poster, but she ain't on the card as far as a match. What's going on with that? I need you in the chat room to let us know. Or your wife knows how to jump right in the chat right now, so you can do it if you want to, and you want to tell everybody. You could just Zoom it with us, Brian.
Pop in this thing,
man. But just throwing it out there. The invitation's always open to you and your lovely wife. But I do want to know where Holiday is. It's very weird that you guys don't have her anywhere in a match. Let's go to the chat, see what people are talking about. We got James H. Jackson Jr., NJPW fanboy. That is a very long name. The NWA UWN. The key thing we need to know is In Demand takes a decent chunk of the money, so it has to be priced. So after In Demand takes its huge cut, there is enough left over to cover all the expenses needed for this project. That was a lot.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't know if it's going to be standard. Like, I mean, maybe it's going to be pricier if you get it on cable and satellite through In Demand than it would be on Fight TV. I don't know.
And they might, you might have, because NWA TNT, there would be certain shows that would be priced more too because of the gravity of the show. Like it was considered not just a pay-per-view, but like a super card. You know what I mean? So they would. I remember this. You would have the regular, what was like $5.99 a week, and then or something like that, and then every now and again, like twice a year, it might have been like the year in review shows. It was like $12.99 or something like that. So you might have different price points for different shows depending on what's at stake. Like if I see if Aldous is defending the belt or Thunder Rosa is defending the belt, you're gonna ask a little more money for that than if it might be the national title or TV title. No shade on them, but just the pecking order.
All right. So Holiday, we have an answer. Holiday is going to be a color commentator at this show at Hell Hath No Fury. So no in-ring action for Holiday, I guess, but she'll be there. So that makes sense. So the Twisted Sisters will be in full force at Hell Hath No Fury. Everybody calm down. She is there.
You were the one riled up, Gary.
I'm still riled up.
Yeah, man.
Where is she? Where is she?
Wait,
do my best Batman. Where is she?
Did Thunder's husband give the wink emoji there on that comment?
He sure did. I don't think you're picking up on it yet. It's because you've been drinking too much.
We'll explain it to you.
It's because I can't see, man.
Yeah.
Rob, how many birthdays have you had?
I've had many, like 20 of them, 22 of them.
Over 20?
Over 20, yeah. Over 20, 40. Over 40 of them. Over 40, well, 44 of them to be exact.
Well, my birthday is November 7th, and I expect you guys to remember that. I'm not going to tell you again. So you need to put it in your calendar now.
I'll do
Got it. November 2nd. Got
it. It's on that's on a Wednesday, which may be the new date that we start doing the live show. Because, guys, one thing we haven't had to discuss, and you guys haven't had to discuss, Tuesdays are out for us, bros.
Yeah.
Well, eventually, this is like the last month of Tuesdays we gonna have together.
This time slot is a limited time thing from here on out for us. So we'll have to regroup and figure it out. We're open to ideas if you guys.
Hey, what?
Well, Rob, listen. So the new NWA UWN show is going to be taking place at 9 p.m. on Tuesdays,
right?
Starting on September 15th.
Okay.
They're 90-minute shows. We ain't doing no post shows for that. Not that.
But
night.
We're doing a regular show though.
Rob,
we're not going to compete with the show that we talk about.
No, but we would go like there are hours after that though.
Rob, that's late, dog.
Yeah, dude. I'm asleep after that.
Y'all ain't true believers, man.
Listen, we're gonna have to pick a different night. I think we're leaning like maybe a Thursday, something like that. Drop it in, doing a post show for Thursday. Like
Thursday's not good for me, man.
Oh, I guess Gary and I'll just do it.
Yeah, I was about to say this is Rob's last month on the
y'all
show.
Been waiting.
So,
y'all been trying to
Rob,
maneuver me out of this for weeks, man.
Rob, I just want to tell you here live on air, we're releasing you from your contract.
Wait a second. We had a 5-year deal, Will.
We did. But I, as the employer, will have all the leverage.
We're not going to do the late night show no more.
Oh, look how high his voice got.
Hold on, guys.
I love Chalmers just jumped in the chat. It's like, hey, and he's like, I've come at the right time.
Yes, you have. Yes,
You're just here just in time to see Stinson fired. Oh my God!
I'm not gonna fire you, Rob, but you and I are gonna have a career versus career match.
We're gonna have professional learning.
And listen, my finisher is a drop toe hold, so it kind of comes out of nowhere.
Mine's the Scandinavian two-toe
I
gradation.
knew you were gonna say that.
That's his go-to.
And I feel gross. I feel gross every time you say that. I don't know why.
If you learn how to counter the Scandinavia two-toe credunza, then you got Rob beat. That's
all right. I got to start training.
Oh man. Thunder's husband Brian says Thursday's great. No wrestling on Thursdays. That's a good point. That's kind of what we were talking about. And also, really, all wrestling will have happened by that day. So, really, if we wanted to, and we wanted to expand out our reach, we could really hit them all. Like on Thursday, just like recap the world.
And I get done with home softball games at about 10. So that's great. We go live at 10:30. I'm in.
I love Andrew McKinney's in there. Coming Tuesdays in September, the Robert Stinson solo show.
Nah, we'll make it work.
Going head to head with Universal Wrestling Network's prime time. It's like, where is everybody? We're watching the damn show we started this podcast for.
We got 2 people in the chat. Oh, that's my wife. Yeah, that's
Natalia will show up though. She's a friend. She'll show up.
No, she's with me. She's faithful to me. She'll.
I'm not saying nothing about the faithful. I'm just saying, but she'll support your boy. She'll support old Robbie Roode here.
I don't want to ignore you, Christopher Boyd. I see you out there, brother. Do you know if they'll show free replays like they do on Fight TV with Power? No idea right now. That's something we were talking about earlier at the top of the show. The Fight TV has Fight Plus, and it's a $10 a month, or no, $5 a month, $50 for a year feature. But it says like you get everything like 30 days later and then access to video on demand for everything. But like live events, you don't get, you get like credits to purchase the live events or something. But I don't know. It's going to be weird. We're interested to see what we can find out about that. J Cal was here in the chat earlier. I see you asking about him as well. And he had to probably go to bed, take care of some kids or something. Unfortunately, right now, J Cal's not a regular member of the chat, but we love having him on as a guest. We were happy to have him yesterday when we had J Cal, Nick Honest, Dave Marquez. It was star-studded. If you didn't catch that one, it's available on demand on our YouTube channel.
And I was going to say something too about that, because I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the partnership, and I was talking about how, you know, there was some news coverage about it, but not as much as I had hoped for. And I was going to say, you know, everyone share out the video from yesterday. We talk about growing the channel. The video did really well. I think a lot of people wanted to hear from Nick and David, and share it out and tag some of those big wrestling publications, get it in front of them. You know, could be a good way to get some visibility on this show and to let people know that, hey, yeah, we're just the bearded trio sitting here talking about gravy cake, but also we got legit guests and we do some quality stuff. So share it out, tag some of those, you know, more visible wrestling journalists, and get the word out.
Yeah, Will makes an excellent point. I mean, we appreciate you guys joining us and stuff, but if you see it on Twitter and stuff like that, I know we don't want to like beg you guys for anything, but if you get a second to retweet, share it in any way you can. I mean, it just helps us out. It helps us get in front of more eyes. It helps build up this chat room so you guys have more people to interact with. I mean, we're happy with the people that are watching right now. If you're watching and not chatting, you could be chatting. We're grateful that you're watching. Anyway, just always please, if you can, share those videos. I did want to travel back to Andrew McKinney. I don't know if you were aware of this, Andrew. It's good to see you, by the way. It's been a little while. He says, super excited for NWA UWN Partnership. If they add NJPW, it'll be Wrestling Christmas. This may have already been addressed, and apologies if so, but is there word on a price point? So there is no word on a price point, but I did hear from Dave Meltzer, just so you know, that New Japan Pro Wrestling is sort of a part of this. They've at least announced that part of the group that's going to be included in this partnership is New Japan. New Japan Strong? Is that what I said earlier? They're that group. So it's like some of the younger talent, the up and comers and that sort of thing that are some really good people, according to everything I've heard. They'll actually be included in this deal and showing up on this primetime show. So, and I'd say as long as that goes smoothly, then that completely opens the door for even more New Japan Pro Wrestling involvement. So keep your eyes peeled. The only word on the price point we have heard is there is supposedly a rumor going around from Wrestling Insider .com. I believe that's where it was. It was saying like 10 to 13 per week, but we don't know if we buy it because nobody else is reporting that. David Marquez was literally here with us last night, and he did not say that. We even talked to him after the show, and he never let anything close to that slip. So I don't know. They could be talking to fight. It's possible, but who knows? Anyway, we're hoping there definitely is supposed to be some deal with Fight TV though as well, part of their subscription arrangement that might include this. So I'd expect we're going to see something about this soon. We just got to hold out. James H. Jackson Jr. mentioning these are Lions Den guys from the LA Dojo. That's right. Yeah. They're going to be hitting the West Coast hard, like that West Coast independent scene hard. And the LA Dojo is going to be included. So, hope and pray for that to work out well. And then I imagine we get that much closer to seeing like an Aldis versus Okada match someday, which would be off the chain.
You're speaking fire now, Gary. You're speaking fire now.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, also, I should clarify that Brian Cervante has also specified that he did not say that Holodead is not in a match. I made that up. He just said that Holodead is on color commentary. So take that for what you will.
Is that what he said? I
read Mission Pro Wrestling. Yeah. He just said, I didn't say no ring action for Holodead. Just said she's doing color commentary.
Okay, I misheard you, Gary. My bad.
Yeah, I assumed. And you know what that does? You know the saying. Oh. So anyway, thank you, Andrew McKinney, for saying that I am wrestling Santa Claus. Although I would never dare to dream to take that role from Sandoval. From Orange
Does that mean that you are wrestling Santa Claus or you're wrestling Santa Claus, like in a match?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I could either way take it.
I'm just kidding.
I think in the context of you talking about Holodead being at Mission Pro, I think he's saying that you were on the card.
It's Santa Claus.
That's how I read it. But who am I?
I think he's saying I'm wrestling Santa Claus because he was hoping for some New Japan Pro Wrestling action in this partnership. And he and James H. Jackson are familiar with the New Japan LA Dojo. And they were happy to see that those guys are going to be a part of this group as well.
That's too logical. But listen, since we're on the subject and no one else has given us any other topics, Gary versus Santa Claus, who wins and what's the finisher? Rob.
I mean, it was Santa Claus wins, obviously, and he wins with the what'd you say?
I don't like how quickly you got to that finish.
Well, because man, he's got pixie dust and like sugar plum fairies and all that. It wouldn't be a fair fight, man. It's like,
oh, I got some sugar plums I'll drop on.
It's in a steel cage, though. What if it's in a steel cage?
Oh, that changes the dynamic.
No sugar plum fairies.
Yeah, they can't get in then. So, I still got Santa Claus edging him out though, because he throws that Jiminy Cricket on him. You know what I'm saying?
Which one of them gets busted open first?
Oh, I seen it. Gary's a bleeder, man. I seen it.
Oh man,
that was a particular time of. Never mind.
That's why you guys need to give us some topics. You guys,
yeah, because it's gonna get ugly in here real quick.
We got 18 people watching, and 5 of you are talking. So come on.
Yeah, there you go. Brian Rosa could replace Robert Chalmers. Hey, WWE Front Row. First of all, it's NWA Second Row. NWA Second Row is here. Just arrived in DC. Happy birthday, Dose Bearded Ones. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, he sent a message earlier saying he was sorry he couldn't be here tonight, but he was traveling to DC. Glad you made it safely, sir. And good to see you pop in. Thanks for showing up here at the latter parts of the show. We greatly appreciate you and your dedication to the cause. What else we got here? Thunder's husband says people from the past in today's current NWA who would be good.
Oh man, I always think like Rick Rude would be perfect. Of course, you know, Rick Rude had an NWA run and Great Muda. I think like Great Muda, Great Kabuki, Kurt Hennig, I think would have been great. Rick Rude's always been one of my favorites. In fact, in the AWF where I portray.
Send Mrs. Front Row a hello from me. Appreciate her. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Yes. Oh no. That's great. Me too.
You just really put me out since you just like you put Santa Claus over just so easily.
But it's not fair, Gary. It's not a fair fight. I mean,
I'm taking my ball and going home. It's like Stone Cold versus Brock. Just leave it. Even build up the match or anything.
Well, since we just mentioned him, going back to Mr. Rosa's question, Eddie Guerrero would be somebody that, you know, obviously, you know, rest in peace. But, I mean, I could see him in today's NWA.
I think about that stuff like who you would like to see compete. Like, let's take a Thunder Rosa. Let's take a Nick Aldis. Like, who are the people that, like, oh, man, the feuds. The feuds would have been epic, you know? Like, I mean, an easy one, for instance, is like a Bret Hart, like in the NWA right now. Like, I'd kill for it. And I know that's an easy one for me. I'm a super Bret Hart fan. But it's just like knowing even the love of Bret Hart that our champ has. I just think that match could be gold. So that would be a lot of fun. It'd be cool to see the Road Warriors come back, honestly.
Yeah.
Badass.
It was neat to see Nikita show back up on Power, you know, or Circle Squared. I mean, that was cool, you know. So some of those guys. But I always thought Rick Rude, man, was just a good talker, had a good look, great worker, could sell like nobody else. Just one of the great heels ever, you know. You're talking about guys that just people just love to hate. Rick Rude, man. I'd love to see him.
Flying Brian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
We were actually watching, I think it was a Beach Blast 2003 or something the other night. It was, and Flying Brian was in it, and he, that's when he was wearing the Cincinnati Bengals trunks.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh,
Yeah.
he was so good.
He was good. He was on that opening of is that what you just said? That Great American Bash? Yeah.
No. This. Yeah, he was on that too. But I was talking about. I think it was called Beach Blast 02 or 03. We were over at the Turnbuckle Bar and Grill. They had it on, and he was watching. I was just like, dude, Brian Pillman Jr. is like a spitting image, man. It's so eerie to see it. You know how much he resembles his dad.
Oh, I'm seeing Aldis versus Steamboat, Stan Hansen, Thunder Rosa versus Ronda Rousey. These are all great. But yeah, Andrew McKinney agreeing. Ricky Steamboat's a no-brainer for the Aldis feud. Brian, you tease us so hard. Bastion Booger versus Big Boss Man versus 123 Kid. Who wins? That's the alternate universe bearded trio.
I'm assuming I'm the 123 Kid. Oh wait, no. Dibs on Big Boss Man.
Oh hell, let's take it. We'll take Bastion.
You see, Chalmers up there asked between you guys who would win in a triple threat. Losers shave their beards.
That's a good question.
I think I'm probably the most compassionate, so I'd probably go under for the guys so they could keep their beards.
Yeah, and Rob,
why are you looking like?
I feel like yours would grow back faster too.
My beard, man, dude, I shave my beard every 2 weeks, and I shave it down to like nothing, and then like 3 days later, it's whew.
Yeah.
I'm
okay, so you can stand and lose it.
So really, it comes down to me and Gary.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now here's the thing.
I feel like
every time Gary did a move on me, he'd apologize.
Yeah.
He'd do the Irish whip, and then he'd be like, "Oh, sorry, man, sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you, man."
So Gary might have the speed advantage, but Will has the height advantage because Gary's only about 4.
There we go with that again. Oh God.
This is what you guys don't know is I'm surprisingly very nimble.
Very nimble.
Very flexible. So I can get you in a lot of holds. They're very
the last time I shaved my beard off was probably about 4 years ago. No, probably even longer than that. But my wife said, "Don't ever do that again or I'll divorce you." So just so you know, I don't want to put any pressure on you guys, but if you beat me, you're like not only taking the victory, you're taking my whole life.
Well, I got a couch down here in the studios of podcast Piper's Notes. You can sit here, but the same thing happened to me, Gary. Like the day before my wedding, we're going to get our pictures made, and I get it's like the Manscaped 0.05, you know. And I'm sitting here shaving with my guard on, and it's one of those ones where you click it up to adjust the size, and I pressed too hard, and it clicked down to like the grain, boy. Bzzz. I had so I had to take it all off, and I walked in. It's like, hey, baby, you know I love you, girl. I started going into my LL Cool J, trying to win her over with like poetry. It's like, hey, girl, every time I think of you, you know I love you. You know I do. And she looked at me and she's like, tell me that you didn't mean to do that. I was like, look, baby, look, man, I've done a lot of crazy things. I started breaking down. I was like, please. This ain't the same without the beard, I promise you. It's funny what a naked chin, how grotesque it will make you look.
I've seen you without a beard. I've seen pictures of you without a beard.
My military pictures, man, but I was ripped back then. Now I'm just like, you know.
Yeah, it's not the same. I had to double take to make sure it was you.
Yeah. That was back when I was a U.S. Army Ranger, boy. I was out there fighting the fight. I was in shape, you know.
Were you really a U.S. Army Ranger?
I was, yeah. I was a U.S. Army. Well, every infantry officer practically is a Ranger. You have to. If you can't go to your unit without a Ranger tab, so.
Nice.
Versus Nick Aldis. I like that.
I like that. Anybody getting the All Out pay-per-view? I didn't even realize it was time.
Yeah. 1st of September.
What's on this card? Just John Moxley versus MJF is the only announced match. What else is going to be on that? Any predictions? Like
Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, anything? Give me something.
Yeah, what's Ricky Starks doing? That's weird. So what's going on with Brian?
Brian Cage.
Yeah, Brian Cage. What happened with that guy?
So they're teamed up. Him and Starks are teamed up. Last I saw. I don't know what happened last week, but
yeah, I gotta jump back in that. We've been talking about that, trying to get back into it. Watching some little AEW. They've been kind of interesting. Yeah. Anyway, you get it. I love that Rob would schoolboy roll up one of us. That seems right. Lots of flipping and flying. I've been thinking a lot about this, Scooby. I've been trying to debate on it. I know James Lawrence comes in here and he hates on AEW constantly for like how garbage it is. But then we have conversations where something comes up, like where I have to think about the fact that, you know what's garbage? The Irish Whip. Like I was talking about that. Like that's kind of garbage. So like, what's the limit? What's the point where it's, where you just can't suspend your disbelief anymore? Is it just the guy standing outside the ring and somebody jumps on him? Is it the part where somebody climbs up in a turnbuckle and punches somebody in the face 10 times and doesn't even draw blood or make a bruise? Like, what's the too ridiculous part? There's a question. And I killed the conversation. So I feel good about that.
I'm sorry. I thought that was rhetorical.
I don't know. I was just looking for anybody to talk. Really, I was just bringing up. It could have been rhetorical.
Gary's getting really. What are you drinking, Gary? You're getting really philosophical tonight.
Here we go with the stoicism.
Yeah.
It's larceny.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, hold that back up there, bro.
Philosopher Gary.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
Hand
the price.
Send that to me.
Yeah. Here you go. For the price. This is solid. Solid.
Wait, I'm over here.
Oh.
Would it be cool if I had one?
It would be really, really awesome. Wait a minute. No, it is over here for you.
Hand it to me. Oh, I got it.
Oh, snap.
Oh, weird. Changed.
How are you at? Wait. Here. Give me one, man.
Here you go, Rob.
Rob, I gotta.
Whoa! That was crazy.
You just look like you lost your whole damn hand.
Yeah, I did for a second. That's the thing. I did.
Well, because he went through the portal.
The top, it's a doggone wormhole right here.
You talking about between your legs?
Ooh.
No, I was just curious. That was the honest question. I don't know.
See how you're gonna switch now. We're gonna shame him for a second. Hold on, bro.
Hurricane versus question mark. What about question mark versus Coco Beware? Or I don't know.
What about question mark versus the Midnight Rider, mask versus mask?
No. I don't know. Brian Cervantes coming in with the Allison Kay versus Sienna match. It's a tough one.
What about Owen Hart versus Blue Blazer?
I'm not touching that one.
Why not?
Just saying.
Sting versus the other Sting.
Oh, snap.
Happy Sting versus sad Sting.
Yeah, happy Sting. Why tonight have we just like, as soon as we ended the podcast, we just became children suddenly, and we're like laying around trying to hand things out.
Hey, we're having fun, man. This is part of it. Thunder Rosa versus Cobra Moon. Let's get it on. Boom. Who would win? Who'd win? I'll tell you what. Thunder Rosa might be more vicious, but Cobra Moon did a lot of like snake stuff. It's we had a whole Thunder Rosa episode. We saw it. Be a tough fight.
Yeah, Mean Mark Callis versus Undertaker. Ooh.
It'd be good. Undertaker would whip his tail.
I don't know about that, man.
Hey, Brian, you never said where she's at.
Yeah.
Why don't you speak up? Aaron Stevens versus the Genius. Yeah, that's a good one.
I want to know about the whole wink
That
thing.
actually makes a lot of sense.
Y'all got all weird, man. I said with the winky emoji, y'all got all weird. I'm like, yeah, you weren't here. Like, what was that? What was that about? Because I'm like, I saw that and I read that. I was like, that the cat's away, the mouse will play. You know, like he's going out to the club tonight.
Y'all know where Will went? I don't know. He just like disappeared. PP.
PP. He said, "Don't say it out loud."
Did he say that?
Yeah, said PP. Don't say it. I've got to go. PP. Don't read this out loud on the show.
Oh well. Hey, look here.
So I'm not gonna read it. He said he number 2 actually.
PP. There it is. You see it. Also have Thunder Rosa pulled up on Wikipedia because I was trying to think of which alternate identity of Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa's in the Gulf of Mexico.
What the heck? Brian, you can't let her be out there in the middle of the sea right now.
Raven versus Josephus would be off the chain. Robbie Roode hung out with both of them. Did you know that?
Who is
Andrew
this
McKinney? Now? Andrew McKinney said, no, Wrestling with the MMA said Raven versus Josephus.
Yes, I did. I did hang out with both of them. Actually worked a couple of shows with Josephus and Raven on one of them. So.
Oh, did you guys check out that AFW viral? AWF? I always mix it up. AWF viral.
You never call it WFW. Why? Why do you call it AFW?
Well, one of them matters.
Nah, it doesn't. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get some more of those. He's cracking me up, man. I'm gonna try to get some more of those episodes on there. You can see the all of the first season on the AWF Viral channel. I'm really trying to talk those guys into putting all their content on our channel, just because they can use the subscribers, we can use the views. So, you know, and I'm involved.
What do you guys think of that? I think it'd be fun to have like a regular like wrestling show on the channel. That would be kind of cool.
It's not backyard wrestling. This is a credible show with credible competitors. I'm talking guys like Lex Lee, Alex Taylor, Paul Lee. And then you never know who's going to show up. You got, again, like Nick Aldis, Josephus, Raven, Buff Bagwell, the Rock and Roll Express. All of these guys have done our show. All of them have. It's the longest running independent professional wrestling show in the Southeast, continuously running. There are promotions that have been longer, but they've had breaks in service. This one is the longest continuously operating promotion. And I really like to get their stuff on our channel. And I think I've got Paul sold, but Lex kind of holds the book right now. And we're working on him. He's a good guy, man. And he's one of the best out there too. So,
does he have a Twitter? We could send the army after him.
Yes, he does. His Twitter is, we'll put it out there right now. And let's make this guy famous.
Jason, I don't get Royce Isaacs versus Kamala.
At Young Lion Lee.
At Young Lion Lee.
Put it in the chat right now.
I'm gonna follow him. I'm gonna be like, give us your stuff.
Give us your stuff, bro. And hit them up, man. Say, we want to see your stuff on the NWA podcast channel every Sunday.
Young Lion Lee. Lex Lee, look at him. There he is. Yeah. I follow him. So one of y'all got to tweet at Young Lion Lee and say, it'd be cool if AWF Viral was on. We want more AWF Viral on the NWA pod. That's what you got to do. And we'll retweet the hell out of it. We'll man. Make it a thing. So one of you guys can jump on that. We do that. And then that's how that'll happen. Yep. See, he won't be able to deny it. May Valentine in jeopardy, eh? Are you Canadian, Jace the Catholic? You keep saying after. I'm just curious.
Like she was on Jeopardy? Or what?
No, I think that goes back to the Royce Isaacs versus Kamala thing.
Oh, I got you. I got you. On Jeopardy.
Guys, Nickelback is teasing a new album. Just throwing that out there. There we go.
Well, I think it's time to wrap up the show.
It is about time to wrap this up. I still have this much drink left, so
Chug it. It's your birthday, man, for another hour.
happy birthday. We can't sing that. That song's copyrighted.
Hey, are we going to start? When are we going to start promoting the NWA Pod Beater Trio Winter Retreat pajama party that's coming up in January? Are we going to start? Are we going to make that public yet?
Son, I don't know about that.
I don't have any pajamas.
Not necessary.
Oh, Brian, Sonny versus the Police. Oh, she's 0 for a bunch right now in those matches. I don't know. I don't see any reason to continue it. Sucks for her though. I saw the OnlyFans was kicking into high gear. I think like she seemed to be doing pretty well with it. But
see you, Andrew.
Andrew, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Thank you all for hanging out with us. This has been awesome.
Yes, sir.
Brian, if you know, I know how hard it can be when your significant other is away and you're just trying to pass the time. If you need to ever guest on the show just to spend time with the Bearded Trio, we'd love to have you. And real talk, Brian, congratulations on all of the health stuff you've been accomplishing. That's pretty badass. I saw that. Saw the photos on Twitter, or no, Facebook, I think it was. And that's awesome, man. Good for you. Something I've been thinking about getting back into. Used to be this year has been whipping my ass, and so it's cool to see people out there killing it. Anyway, Will, Rob, anything you'd like to add to the discussion before we kill it off with these folks? We've got a nice little crowd in here still watching. It's good to see you guys, but some of us got work tomorrow.
That'd be me.
Rob, you're going to be up for like 3-4 more hours. Don't.
True. So is Gary.
Gary's not.
He's got to have a drink to feel, man.
Gary's sleepy, man. See, I just yawned right then. I just yawned. All right, everybody. This is clearly nobody's talking. So thank you all for being here live with us. We love you guys, and we appreciate you all for being here as part of the chat. Tune in next Sunday. We'll be back, and we're always available on Twitter at the NWA Pod. We love hearing from you folks. If you have ideas for things you want us to talk about, topics you want us to cover, we're happy to credit you with those as well. Send them our way. We'll be happy to bring them up. Join the Discord if you haven't already. We got a Discord where we chat about stuff all the time. Brian sadly pointing out that Rob came late and wants to leave early. He's losing faith. I
think Rob knows his contract's coming up. So
yeah, just got the bad news tonight. Well, there's an opportunity because I got a plan B.
So there you go.
Chalmers, thanks so much for joining us, buddy. James H. Jackson Jr., thanks for all your contributions today. That's all of our wives giving the wrap this up look. And Jason Havlick, we appreciate you being here. To School Rob and Dave Scooby, thank you as well. You guys have been awesome. We will talk to you soon enough. Until next time, enjoy your gravy cake.